I'm usually immune. I usually I don't break out. Good morning, Dan. Are you out there creating chaos in the world? Poking the matrix? Sowing dissent into the illusion? Oh. It's so funny, you know, when you see toddlers running through the park screaming silly things with no logical reason or recourse or purpose at all. No really intended purpose except to be loud, obnoxious, or disruptive, or obtuse, or to make themselves a glaringly obvious part of the situation. It's so funny. I remember doing that when I was like 6. What's interesting to me is when we carry on those as, yeah, exactly. Let the children be children. We can all be together. And that's the thing, you know, even at like culturally, let's look at that, because culturally we've totally lost the ability to have our kids in shared spaces. As a single parent traveling around and homeschooling my son, one of the tenets of our homeschool program has been that he works with me. Hey, Ree, is that he comes to work with me. And I can't tell you the amount of jobs that he would not be disruptive at all to the job. And he's 8 now, right? And this was like 6 and 7, which he was still very well-mannered young man. And they would just go, no, we don't do that. It was just out of the question. Some people would even look at me like I was fucking crazy, like I asked that question. And these are like camp hosting jobs. These are like jobs where he can hang out with me all day long and he can help me scrub the toilets. Not toilet, you know what I mean? But, or yeah, well, I wouldn't let him do it, is what I'm saying. I wouldn't let him do that part. He did the sinks. He did the sinks and swept the floor and stuff like that. But, it's funny because when I was doing that, I also ran into people who would say, you know, back in my day, I took my son or my child to work with me for several years before they were in public school or before, you know, whatever it was. Lots of parents did so. Again, that's culture. That's not even like, that's just like a recent shift. That's something we more recently stopped doing and stopped allowing. Anyway, I think we need to allow children to be children, even when we are the children. It is in making space for all of our parts of selves, including our children, that we see a cohesive collective, that we see a community that comes together and supports each other at all stages of life, instead of this compartmentalized, the children are not allowed here, the men are not allowed here, the women are not allowed here, the elders are not allowed here. It's like, stop putting everybody in cubicles and boxes and like, HCB, leave the children alone. What era was that from? I was born in the 80s, so our the little saying I always remember was what's the word? It was the era when those domestic violence commercials came out, where they would say, if you see something, say something, or something like that. It was like, it is your business. The whole idea was these commercials were coming out because people would see DV going on at their neighbors, and they would just not say anything, not do anything, because it's not my business. It's not, you know, it's their personal lives or whatever. And so there's a whole series of commercials that came out that's like, actually, it is your business. As their neighbor, if you hear that kind of stuff screaming and see that stuff going on in the yard, say something. I was really grateful for the commercial, but it really made me mad because it was happening in my house. And even though I said something and other people said something, when your stepdad's a police officer, when your abuser is a police officer, not much happens. Ooh, beautiful fox. I could imagine half of society getting fixed if our culture prioritized play over performance, exploration over performance. Can you imagine what the work environment would be like if everyone was encouraged to experiment and to try to make things better and try to improve upon things and try to find more efficient ways? Like, if we were all actively looking to improve and actually had a like an investment, right, in that business or that. Yeah, there's a whole. Angel, I should make videos titles, different topics like inner child, healing, meditation. My friend, if I had a social media manager, I would have a much more organized social media content availability. But the truth is that I'm literally just, I mean, it's solo. I'm parenting solo. I'm working solo. I don't have a team who's like consistently helping me in the background. And I have I have a mountain of content that is sitting there unposted, sitting there unedited, sitting there without the captions, sitting there without some piece of it that isn't finished because I literally just don't have time to record all the content, edit all the content, post all the content. Like I've said before, like these lives are, 3-4 hours long sometimes, and there is so much content in there that I'd love to clip and take out and turn into other things. And there's things that happen throughout the day. You guys see my content. I pull out my phone when I'm on the road and like jump out of my car to go, hey, there's medicine on the side of the road, let me make a quick video about medicine right here right now. You know what I mean? And that's how those get made, is I've had to shift away from trying to be abundantly creative in terms of providing a ton of kind of like just random content or even organizing that content, because I have that Virgo core and I want to do that as a Virgo. I want everything to be easily accessible and organized and logical for you to find it easily. Like that's why I'm trying to build an app, but I need a developer to help me do that too. The goal is there, trust me. The intention is to make things extremely accessible, very well organized and searchable and playful and all of the things. But until I have a team of people doing that with me, I can't actually push myself to do that. And that's something that's very important to me, because I used to push myself to do that, and I pushed myself into chronic conditions and unwellness. So it's a learning process for me. Thank you for the request, because I would love to. I would love to make more content like that, specifically with topics. And if anybody feels compelled to help, if anybody loves this content, even if you don't know about the content and you're new to the content, but you have video editing skills or can help me build an app or back of house tech skills, let me know. Like I said, I trade memberships, I trade services and things like that for it. We do a lot of good together, right? Fiverr is a company that I will not contribute to. I am very much somebody who I vote with my dollar. Where I put my dollar is specifically aligned with my values, and I try my best to make sure that every single dollar I spend only goes to companies that I either approve of their values or don't disapprove of their values. Good morning, Nova. But unfortunately, Fiverr, Canva, Wix, a lot of these companies that we regularly use for things like that are companies that are currently supporting war crimes. So many companies have bad values, though. And here's the truth, Angel, too. I dated somebody, and he was like your stereotypical vegan, right? He wasn't just vegan because it was good for his health, but he was vegan because it was a very important like part of who he was and the way that he approached the world, and he identified as it, right? I think we might make vegan a different gender too. We might as well add it to like its own thing and finally give them the status that they need. I love you vegans. I'm just playing with you. But he was your classic, like he would roll his eyes at you and condemn you if you were eating meat or he was worse though, because he knew all of these companies. He knew, he had researched pretty much everything he bought for, right? And so he knew that every dollar that he put in, he lived in Ashland, Oregon, so he had access, that every single dollar he had, he put only towards the companies that he actually approved of. Didn't know about, but only the ones he actually approved of. And he'd done his research, and he had a short list of companies he could buy from. Well, we went on a road trip. And we ended up in the middle of Utah stopping for food. And he literally could not find a single company that he was used to buying for. And he had a tantrum and stormed out of the store with his four-year-old daughter on his arm, not having any food. I get it. I get having boundaries. I get having values, right? And that's important. It's important for us to set those standards for ourselves. But the reality is if that, like, we have to also be flexible. We have to also be aware that we can't we can't be perfect every fucking time, everywhere we go. And sometimes, you know, I don't eat meat. But if I was somewhere where that was what was being served and I needed to eat, I can't say that I would turn it down. If that was what was available, I don't think I would turn it down. And I think that's part of balancing our long-term goals with our short-term needs. Sometimes we get off track and we forget to take care of our short-term needs in light of long-term goals, which is why, yeah, putting your dollar is really important, but limiting yourself, just be mindful. Yeah, I guess. I just remembered him. I adored him as a person, but this was something he could not let go of. He could not be flexible for. And we ended up breaking up because I snuck his daughter food from a company that he didn't approve of. And I was like, you can't starve your 4-year-old. Like, at that point, this is a problem for you. So, anyway, topic off topic. Perspective. It's all about perspective. It has been tickling my brain all week long. All week long. So I'm going to say it again. Perspective. Perspective. I received the gift of perspective from my son just a couple days ago. And for those of you who were here, hey, thanks, Pineapple Queen. For those of you who were here on Monday, you have heard this already, and I'm going to reiterate it for those who have not, because I found it really, really fucking profound. He comes out of his room into the yard where I'm sitting, and he clearly has been reading books, right? So he comes out and he goes, Mom, did you know that Whoville is just like on a speck of dust, right? It's just a tiny little town on a speck of dust. It's not even that big. Like, it was on a clover, a speck of dust. He really, like, exaggerates the speck of dust. Yes, son. Did you read Horton Hears a Who? He was like, yeah. So, but guess what? That means that the Grinch is a Who in Whoville on a speck of dust. He's like, why is this guy even considered, like, scary at all? Why are we worried about the Grinch? He's on a speck of dust. And it actually took me a second. Like, I knew where he was going. I was listening to it, and I completely understood and followed the whole thing. But it took me a second for it to, like, ping around in my brain in that way that just goes... I was like, that's some good perspective right there, my friend. Oh no, the big bad Grinch is going to come and steal Christmas. And I love that, right? And I turned around and I was like, if only we can do that with all of our problems. If only we could do that with all of our frustrations. If only we could do that when we feel offended or, rageful, or if only we could do that and somehow shift the perspective and see that massive Grinch for what he really is. An emotional moment. A little feeling that got really big, right? When we're children, our experience, thank you, friend, when we're children, our experience of everything becomes very engrossing because we have less of a concept. We don't really have a concept of time. We sometimes don't have a concept of permanence, object permanence, or the process of time, or there's a lot of things our brains cannot conceive of when we're very, very young. And so those emotional habits often end up carrying the same weight because we still carry that perspective. Those emotions come out oftentimes from a place of the perspective of the 5-year-old, which is why you feel the need to throw a tantrum. That's why it feels that big. That's why it feels that heavy. That's why it feels that wild. That's why, I remember as a little girl in episodes of anger so big and so overwhelming that I used to grab my hair and I would just yank on my hair as hard as I could because I couldn't get the feeling out. It was like overwhelming. And in my house, we were not allowed to express those things. I learned to compartmentalize them. And so now, when that frustration comes out, it does. It comes out like a massive beast over the smallest little things. I've learned that that's not appropriate to the here and now, but many of us haven't. Many of us haven't taken the time to examine these things and go, you know, maybe me throwing a tantrum over these little things isn't appropriate. Maybe I'm not so justified in behaving that way and treating people like that and weaponizing my emotions. How can I do this differently? Thank you, friend. How can I show up differently? How can I shift my perspective and see that those emotions are based in a time when I was more immature, when I was a younger being without any real resources to develop anything different, any better tools. But now that I am the adult here in this temple, adult-ish, right? Don't tell the kids, I'm not an adult. Forever a child. Hi, Vada. Forever a part. Allowing that child to be part of me. Allowing that child to have a voice when the real me didn't have one. Or whatever that looks like for you. But it's about shifting our perspective. Perspective. So our mudra for this week is the mudra for perspective. And I promised everybody that I would wait until about 10:30 to do the meditation every single Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday this week, because I don't tend to do it on time. I tend to get chatty for a while and then, oh God, it's 10:30. Shit, let's do a meditation. So I'll give you the mudra. Again. And I'd love to hear from those of you who have been using it, if you've had any particular experiences or if there's anything that you've been really enjoying about it. I have, using it this week, I have found there's a slight shift that I want to inquire about. I want to offer you guys an inquire about, because I found a big difference between these two ways of doing it. And it doesn't really change the mudra. It just, well, let me make the comments big here. Oh, wait, guys, we forgot my incense. See? Y'all get me chatting. And before you know it, it's 10:30. My gift is my song. And this one's for you. You can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind. Hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is. Now you're in. That must be where I got Elton John, where Elton John just popped out of. The brain radio does its own thing. The brain radio does its own thing, and I try to let it. You know, again, I used to not let it, and now, shifting perspective, recognizing the value in all of these parts of myself, I let it. And you just posted him. Okay, our mudra. Beth, me too, right? It keeps me entertained. Our mudra for this week, again, is the mudra for perspective. The Ashvaratna Mudra. ASHVARTNA. RATNA. Yes. Sanskrit. I'm learning the Sanskrit. What incense? It's a third eye blend incense, because the breath work we're going to be doing, remember on Monday we sit with our mudra for just 5 minutes. On Wednesday we're going to add some pranayama today, and on Saturday we add the visualization piece. So the Ashvaratna Mudra, the mudra for perspective, is done like so. Bring your palms together as if you're going into prayer. Keep your pinky and your ring finger connected. and your thumb. Fold your index and your middle finger down. Right? The other way to do it is you could fold all your fingers down and bring your thumb, pinky, and your middle or your rings back up, but it's kind of harder to go backwards that way, so let's do that again. Palms together. Keep your pinkies, ring fingers, and thumbs connected, and interlace those first two, your index and your middle. This is the Ashvaratna Mudra, translates to the most excellent of horses, or jeweled horse, or horse jewel, these kinds of concepts, ideas, imagery. So, when I offered this on Monday, the directions for this mudra, and the way I've seen it done before, is with it slightly open like this, is to create space inside of this mudra. But as I was sitting with it yesterday, I was sitting with this one yesterday, and as I was sitting with it, I found that the base of my hands kind of floats back together. And I don't mean fully closing my hands. I mean barely making the connection at the base of the hands so that you can just feel the touch. This way, it remains, you see the gap in there? You still have the gap of the mudra, but that touch at the base of the hands made a huge difference for me in experiencing this mudra. So I want to offer that to you. Experiment with it. It might be too intense, but I was sitting with it last night in the evening, and that I found really, really nice. Okay, I missed some comments here. Give me just a second, guys. Beth. Yeah, I'm live on YouTube and on Instagram. Move with change. That's a good idea. Aw. Vada, crazy. This instantly provides a sensation in the solar plex, just like the other day now. So, he's trying again this time. Good. Congratulations. I'm proud. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of you both. That's not an easy path to walk, and that takes bravery. It takes courage. It takes humility. You know, it takes self-love to take steps like that, and to, yeah, and I'm, it's beautiful that he's got your support too. There it is, Vada. I was going to ask about your third eye. Weird lifting pressure of third eye. Remember we had somebody else on Monday who said they felt like a drainage, sinus drainage kind of thing happen up at the third eye. So you're experiencing, hey Zach, you are already experiencing the effects of this mudra. This mudra works to balance fire, earth, and water in the body. Fire is responsible for your digestion. So it improves your digestion. That's also where the solar plexus and sacral chakra are. It relieves, or it assists us in removing ego clinging to give us a higher perspective of our life, of whatever else is going on. This one helps you with constipation, really. That's interesting. Well, maybe it seems like you're, yeah. Who's going to make some joke? There was like a joke up there about spiritual constipation, but it fell away. Sorry. Oftentimes particularly for constipation, the standard mudra that I recommend is the Apana Mudra. This is the downward flow mudra. Don't use this mudra if you have just eaten or if your digestion is moving very quickly already. The intention here with the mudra, index finger and pinky extended, bring the middle and ring finger down, and then bring the pad of the thumb to the top of those nails. Not by pressing too hard, but making an intentional connection here. This is the Apana Mudra. It's going to move. It's going to help your digestion move. This is really good for any kind of stuck, slow digestion. Exactly. And you just rest it palms up in your lap. Again, with a lot of mudras, if you're not sitting down and you're not just sitting there holding the mudra, you can hold it while you're walking, you can hold it while you're watching Netflix, you can hold it while somebody's talking to you underneath the table, you know, you can do, like, You can hold your mudras. That's why I love them. You can hold your mudras. They're accessible all over the place. So that's my suggestion for if constipation or really slow digestion is a particular issue you're going for. If this has the added benefit of doing that for you, then fantastic. But I just wanted to add that in case folks are like, "Ooh, I have that. Let me use this." It might not clear that for you. This one is about perspective. So it clears away the blockages to us receiving that perspective. It clears away the clinging to ego that prevents us from seeing that higher perspective. Is that what do you mean? Did Crocodile Dundee do this, Jeremy? I just think it's all of us rock stars just, I don't know. I don't know what the joke is. I don't know. My brain is not very good apparently with being quippy today, so pardon me. The pirates really want to be quippy, but apparently they're just yeah. I don't know. They must have had a party last night or something because they're all like, never mind. He did it to the dog's eyes like this. Did he do one of these? Like, I'll make you poop. I'm gonna make you poop. Shut up, you guys. As somebody who is, I used to be fluent in sign. I don't know if I could say I'm fluent in sign. I can still sign. But as somebody who signs, for some reason, just now, I realized that I might be able to mix sign language and mudras in a really funny way. Oh, God. What can of avocados did you guys open up just now? Mudras make me euphoric sometimes. It's kind of intense. Yeah. That's why I like the mudras. That's why I like the mudras is because they are intense. And I almost always feel some kind of interaction with the rest of my system. Which honestly just helps me to know they're effective. If you take a medicine and you don't feel anything happen from it or you don't notice any shifts, you're kind of like, well, did that work? Did it do anything? This is why I love mudras, is because you can see it work. You can feel it work. You can sometimes hear it, right? See it. Makes me have hope that magic is real, even though it is. I love that, Vada. For me, it is that kind of reminder and that's where I let the little kid part of me come out and go, oh, did you see that? That was so cool. I let her have a, front row seat when we do mudras and when we do these explorations, because she also reminds me to be curious. And when things that are scary come up, when things that I want to change or fix, a lot of times she'll laugh. Or she'll go, oh, I know who that is. And she'll tell me what part of me that is. Remember we talked last week a little bit about how when our energy is misused in our systems, it can often manifest as something that's imbalanced and feels really dangerous or scary or, oh, I don't want that rageful part of myself. The reality is that energy oftentimes has a different role that it's meant to serve, but it doesn't serve that because it's trying to do this. Like my negative self-talk was actually my organizer, my timekeeper, right? She's very good at making sure that things are orderly so that we know where everything is and keeping track of everything. She also became my negative self-talk because I wasn't giving her the space to do that piece appropriately, and she felt like she needed to take up this other space too. So my inner child, FYI, maybe yours might be able to do this too. My inner child can always see through my ego clinging different character whatnots. Like she's like, oh, I see that you're being da-da. It's like she's happy about the fact, right, or excited about the fact that I'm wearing different costumes. It's a costume game to her. It's a stage, it's a play, I was that theatrical kid who was always doing performances and like replaying scenes in movies in front of my parents, making them sit down for hours while I put on different costumes and performed entire series, TV shows, shit for them. So I let her have those moments. Hey, Regal Poison, thank you for the hugs. Poor neighbors. No, they probably loved it. I don't know. I do remember having some crowds. Like we definitely invited the neighbors over. I remember. I mean, we were. You know, it was the '80s and '90s. Like I could still go and knock on my neighbor's door if I needed something. And you had crowds too. Yeah, I had crowds. I will admit, I have always found that it's easier for me to be authentic in a crowd full of people than it is for me to be authentic when I'm one-on-one with somebody. I get really nervous and my ego kind of comes out to be protective. But when I'm in a setting with a large crowd, it's easy for me to let myself be myself. I think I've examined it a lot because it's something that's always been true for me. I'm more comfortable in front of hundreds of people, way less in front of 5 or 2 or 3 or 1. You know what I mean? Like, the fewer, the more discomfort. And that comes from my own history, my own stuff, my own insecurities. But I've realized I'm not so susceptible, right, to the individual judgments people have about me if I'm standing there performing in front of a whole crowd. I can so much more easily go, fuck it. They got their own thing, right? There's at least other people in here that are going to like what I'm doing, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that was the thing. But one-on-one, like singing. People used to ask me to sing. Will you sing this? Will you sing that? And I'm like, nope, it's just you and me sitting in here. Nope, I am not going to sing. Absolutely not. I'll go to karaoke and sing in front of 50, 60, 80 people in the fucking bar. I'll go and stand on a stage in front of several hundred people and perform. But no, you and I sitting here? No, 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 thanks, no. No, I've gotten a lot better at that now. I've gotten a lot better about it. B. Halen, good morning, hello. So awkward, right, Vada? Okay, all right, y'all. It is 10:31. So as I promised, we are going to do our meditation with our mudra today. Remember, on Monday, we sit with our mudra for just 5 minutes. So if you'd like to just sit for 5 minutes today, then I encourage you to do so. If you would like to add a pranayama technique, we are going to practice pranayama today. And it's funny because my pirates are arguing over which pranayama, so I will give you guys the opportunity to choose here. I'm surprised Trey, the drummer, isn't in here because I figured one of these is Kapalabhati. Kapalabhati or Bastrika, a fire warming breath. I've been avoiding warming breaths because it has been very, 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 very hot here. And I don't do hot. So don't add a warming breath on a hot day. You want to light some incense? Okay, I'll give you a second, Vada. Anybody else need to light their candles, light their incense, find a place to be quietly? Si, mijo, que tú quieres?
I thought I heard them say this on I think they might be the people back there.
Okay.
I think they're gonna get them called.
We can go talk to them. They're our neighbors, honey. It's not a big problem. It's not a problem. Okay? I love you. That's what happens with having indoor-outdoor kitties. They're going to travel around.
Could we get some callers for them ASAP?
Well, we can go tell the neighbors, honey bear. They're too small for callers. They won't even stay on. Te amo. Okay. Nag champa, on. Okay. All right, everybody. Yeah. Hit the pen. Do whatever you got to do. Go pee. What? Mijo, por favor. Shut that gate, please, or shut the door, please. Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. As he goes, slam. Not that one. Okay. All right, guys. Beware for shenanigans. Remember that the world around you is not going to stop. It is not going to be quiet so that you can have a few moments of meditation. This is why we practice just as we are, right? This is why we commit to showing up, even if it's messy, even if it's weird, even if it's loud, even if you're feeling uncomfortable about it, right? 5 minutes, a minimum of 5 minutes a day. no matter what is going on outside of you. Stop waiting for the world to make space for your silence, quiet, meditation. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Okay, here is our Ashvaratna Mudra. The Ashvaratna Mudra is the mudra for perspective. It assists in releasing ego clinging. It balances the elements of water, earth, and fire in the body. And we do it like so. Bring your palms together as if you're going into prayer. Keep your thumbs touching, your pinkies and your ring fingers touching, and spread them out. Not with tension, don't create tension, just spread them out a little bit more, make some space. And then interlace your pointer and your middle finger all the way down. Now, I did find while I was meditating with this one, the longer I sat with it, the more my fingers floated up. And again, the more my palms floated down together. So when we hold our mudras with intention. Intention in my mudra prevents it from floating away or falling open or collapsing or, me losing the mudra. So as you are sitting with your meditation, but that said, sometimes our mudras will adjust for us in a way that gives us more of what we need. So bring your intention to the mudra. Take your mudra up. Leave a little bit of space here between your palms. You can keep keep the bases of your palms together if you'd like to, but you need to make sure that there's space in there. Or you can just open the palms a little bit. And then we anchor this with the thumbs on our sternum. If you feel called to lower it, go ahead and do so. If you feel called to hold it higher, go ahead and do so. If as you're holding it, it keeps creating tension for you to keep your fingers down, and you find that allowing them to float up a little bit allows you to enjoy the meditation more, or that allows you to release tension in your system, then follow that too. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up for the practice. Okay? So as we sit with our mudra, we bring our attention back to our intention. We want to keep our intention here in our mudra. So for a few minutes while we breathe, we can bring our attention back to our mudra. Once we start the pranayama practice, you're probably going to need your attention on the pranayama practice. So we're going to cue for that. We're going to shift our attention. But the foundation of mindfulness, the foundation of meditation in this space is to just engage in the practice of cultivating your awareness. So anytime you notice your mind is off thinking about something else unrelated to this practice, if your brain is worrying about something, if your brain is giving you some negative self-talk, if it's chattering away about something totally unrelated, whatever it is, even if it's chattering away about the practice itself, any sort of chatter, because that's tension in the body, it creates tension in the breath, it creates tension in the mind. Any tension. Let go of focusing on the tension and return to your intention. As long as your attention is on part of your practice, the mudra, the breath work, any visuals that come up with it, that's fine too. If your attention wanders anywhere else, the practice is to bring it back. If you don't get any visuals, if you don't do the pranayama practice, if all you're doing is holding the mudra quietly, you're still bringing your attention back to your intention. This is the foundation of mindfulness, your intention and your attention. And when these things arise, instead of attaching stories, instead of guilting yourself, instead of creating more tension, we just meet it with curiosity and willingness, just like clouds passing through the sky, right? Everything in the universe has a rhythm, a rise and a fall, an ebb and a flow, including your heart. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Allow your emotions, thoughts, any other tension or sensations to rise and fall with that exact same rhythm, without attachment, without judgment, without... Yeah. Jeremy, you're experiencing nerve tension in your left arm. It could be related. Whoops, I was making a different mudra. I was like, wait, which mudra are we doing? If you're feeling nerve tension, again, if it's creating you and you use the word right there, tension. So I invite you to shift the mudra. If you find that maybe tilting it instead of facing forward, if tilting it a little bit helps to relieve that tension in your left arm, then please do so. If holding the mudra a little bit more open or loose relieves the tension that you're feeling, then do so. I invite you to adjust. If you feel tension holding this mudra, adjust the mudra so that you can hold it without tension. If you can't hold this mudra at all without tension, then this mudra is not available for you right now, and that's okay. And that's important, though, for you to honor where you're at and honor what's available to you, because we do not bring ourselves healing or space, or we do not cultivate self-love, right, when we push ourselves beyond our edges repeatedly all the time. And a lot of times, a lot of us are really good at pushing our edges and doing these things. So I encourage you to use this space to be gentle, to be compassionate, and curious and willing. Okay. So, the pranayama practice that we're going to do today is Ujjayi breath. It's actually one that is really common. I love to use a lot, but surprisingly, I haven't shared it in this class. Yes?
What do we do with the egg soap and the old cheese?
Compost bucket.
How do I get them down without, like, touching anything?
Mijo, now is not the time for you to be asking these questions that you can absolutely at least try and experiment with the answers for yourself. You can make attempts at ways to do this, and you can figure it out. Te amo. Okay, so again, when you find tension anywhere, I invite you to meet it with curiosity and willingness, but also to release it, to let it go, not to attach to it, to let it rise and fall just like your heart does on your breath. We'll bring our mudra together one last time here. Carpal tunnel in both sides. So curious if breathing and moving it around would align the natural order of the nerves. Yeah, so if you have a condition like that, right, find, like I said, find the mudra the best you can do. I would encourage you to add this breathing technique. And honestly, this breathing technique is not specific to carpal tunnel. So it may offer relief, but it may also garner more tension. If you remind me, or if you're in our Discord and we talk, we can chat in the Discord about mudras or breath work or other visualizations or other practices that we can use to work with carpal tunnel energetically. I can just teach you some energy work hand positions too for that too. So, all right. We've got our mudra. Palms together. Keep your pinkies and your ring fingers and your thumbs connected. Interlace your pointer and your middle. Create just a little bit of space between your palms. And anchor that onto your chest. And we will begin our practice by closing our eyes. You can do this practice seated, upright, laying down, walking, driving. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. Don't take your hands off the wheel. The only thing I ask is that your spine is elongated so that you can get the full movement of energy through your system. So your system itself is aligned. We're going to start with those 3 deep breaths, pulling the breath in through the nose and down into the belly. And sigh it out. Inhale again, lifting the heart and elongating the spine, lifting through the top of the head. And let it go. Inhale once more, expanding the rib cage in all directions, front, sides, and back, and hold the top. Taking a little more air, a little more, and let it go. At the end of the exhale, seal the lips and tuck the chin just a little bit. Ever so slight tuck of the chin to bring some intention to your head position. And just take a moment to follow the breath. Bring intention back to your mudra. See, my mudra already collapsed on me because I was just listening to the breath. Bring your intention back to your mudra and then allow your attention to rest on the rhythm of your breath, on the exchange of your inhale and the exhale, following the inhale all the way to the top, exhale all the way to the bottom. Allow your breath to settle into a comfortable, steady rhythm. This is oftentimes where our mind doth protest quite loudly. Again, let each of those thoughts, worries, fears, tensions in the mind rise as the heart rises on the inhale and fall away as the heart falls with the exhale. It's okay that thoughts arise. It's okay that tension arises. We meet it with compassion, with curiosity at the very least. The same kind of curiosity we would offer a passing cloud, passing little ladybug or ant. No need to disturb it. Let it go on its way. You may notice any manner of sensations available to your system as you sit with this mudra. Again, I encourage you to allow the sensations to rise and fall the same way you would with your thoughts without attaching stories to them. I know they can be really cool or bring up a lot of questions. We can look at these after. In this space, we just practice presence. This is the mudra for perspective. In cultivating perspective, better perspective, higher perspective, clearer perspective, we want to ensure that the third eye is clear and strong. One of my favorite ways to work with the third eye is with the breath. So we're going to add a pranayama practice here with a little bit of visualization. And it's not even the visualization, it's just really the intention. Ujjayi breath, or ocean breath, is done by gently constricting the muscles in the throat so that your inhale, instead of just being a silent, quiet exchange of inhales and exhales, so your breath takes on a almost snoring quality or an ocean sound quality. Gently constrict the muscles of your throat to get a kind of see if you can get yourself to the very edge of snoring. It's okay if you accidentally snort. If you do so, just relax the muscles a little bit, relax the breath a little bit to find a nice, steady ocean sound. Hear the ocean waves, the ebb and the flow of ocean waves in your breath. Bring intention back to your mudra in case it's collapsed. And bring your attention back to your breath. This time, imagining instead of the breath being in the throat, I invite you to lift the breath up into the third eye. And imagine that this sound is the sound of the breath clearing through the straw of the third eye, the tunnel of the third eye. Remember, the front of the third eye is on your brow, between your eyebrows, above your nose. And the back of the third eye is at the base of your skull, where the pineal gland is, where your spine meets your skull, where your spine meets your head. Use the breath to clear out this channel, to give, to offer, to provide clearer, higher, wiser perspective. We'll take several moments here with the breath. Making sure to check in to bring intention back to your mudra so the mudra doesn't collapse, and then bring your attention back up to the third eye. To intensify this practice, you can turn your eyes, your literal gaze, your actual eyes up towards your third eye. It can create tension behind the eyes, so if it starts to do so, please relax the eye gaze. But if it's available to you, you can go ahead and turn your eyes up towards your third eye. Go back to your Ujjayi breath. We will spend about 5 minutes here working with the breath. If at any point it becomes too intense, please release the practice. Gentle ocean breath, eyes gazing up to the third eye, hands in the Ashvaratna Mudra, intention, in the mudra, in the breath, in the mind, letting go of any tension that arises. Take your time. If tension arises in the body and it's a simple little adjustment, I encourage you to allow your body to adjust. Oftentimes our bodies can be realigning themselves. Focusing that breath, going through the third eye, through the channel of the third eye. Clearing out anything blocking higher, wiser perspective. Cultivating your attention, bringing it back to your intention, releasing any tension in the mind, in the breath, in the body. Stay with it. Inhaling and exhaling, Ujjayi breath, that gentle ocean breath. I encourage you to sit with this practice as long as is available to you. When you find your last exhale, I invite you to release your hands, and before we go into gratitude, take a moment, rest your palms upright in your lap, and just release the gaze, release the breath, release everything, the mudra, release your focus, and just pause in this space. The work that we just did has the potential to make really big shifts within you and can produce some kind of intense experiences. So I encourage you, the more intense the practice, the more time you want to take in this in-between space. Taking the time to just be between. If it feels appropriate, I invite you to offer a gentle smile to whatever sensations are moving through your system. A gentle smile to your system itself, to the energy as it moves viscerally through your system, or to the energy that you can't feel at all. It's okay if you can't feel anything happening at all. We can still be grateful, knowing that our systems are self-reordering, self-healing, and that the prana that flows through us is always leading us toward our highest good. Really take a few more moments to release, to relax. Scan for tension in the body, in the mind, particularly in the eyeballs or in the forehead or in the jaw, in the shoulders, shoulder blades, elbows, thighs. Relax, relax. I often wait in this space until a couple of deep breaths naturally occur. This is a sign of the parasympathetic nervous system calming down. And it's already, right? We calm it down a little bit through meditation, but that's still a doing thing. And when we sit in this being place, a sign that the system is calming down even more are those spontaneous deep breaths. When you feel complete and are ready to come out of meditation, I invite you to bring your hands together into prayer or simply lay one over the other over your heart in gratitude for this practice and gratitude for this shared space that we cultivate together. And offer yourself some gratitude for taking the time for this meditation, for taking the time for self-care. I'm really proud of you, and I really hope that you feel that too. And of course, thank you for joining me. When you're really ready to come out of meditation, do so slowly. Offer yourself some wiggles and some stretches and some... I don't want to come out of that one. I really liked that one, and as soon as I'm off live, we might do that one again. Actually, before I'm off live, we might do that one again. Uh-oh, I have to verify to continue. I don't know how long that was sitting there. Again, okay. Hi, dirty little unicorn. I love you. Hi, Bishop. I love you, too. How are you guys doing? Oh, What did I miss? What were you guys chatting about? Evo? When I release tension, it sounds like dinosaurs fighting. What do you mean? Is it like I don't know. That's good. Hi, Ricky. How are you? T Rucker, I'm sorry, I just saw your question here. Are you constricting on inhale and exhale or just inhale? You had to stop, but it felt good to do both. Both. Both is Ujjayi breath is the constriction in the throat muscles, both inhale and exhale. Again, like the ocean waves. You want to get that nice rhythm. And if you're sitting there listening to the ocean, it does make a sound pretty much all the way through, right? There sometimes are quieter moments, and you'll notice that the quietest moment is at the peak of the inhale and at the bottom of the exhale. Right? That brought a lot of yawning for you. Good, good. That's opening up the throat chakra, that's opening up the third eye, and that's calming the nervous system. Like, wow, wow. Thanks, guys, for all the avocado love, for the love for my shirt today. I am in love with this mudra. And I feel like it's a really important mudra for us to be using right now. It's a really important energy for us to all be cultivating right now. Yes.
There's no room in the sink there, so
That's why you are doing dishes, cleaning out the stuff in the sink so that you can use the sink. So you're going to have to move some stuff. I love you. These are questions you can answer on your own. Te amo todo el tiempo, mijo. That was really relaxing, Lindsay. I'm really glad you enjoyed that. The loving mom voice. This mom voice. I have taken to making faces when I start feeling frustrated, because it really helps me not be so frustrated. This is one of my favorite ones too. When he comes in and asks me the same question over and over and over again, a lot of times, no, not with my middle finger. This is the other one I'll do when he starts getting really ridiculous, and I'm like, okay, my frustration level is getting higher. I'm going to start making faces, and it's going to also cue to you that you've been asking too many questions and you just go do the job. Jim Carrey said the same thing. I do appreciate some things about that man, so. Chris, my youngest kept interrupting my meditation, but it still felt good. And that's the thing, right? There where I avoided meditation. I avoided my practice for a long time, yoga, meditation, and all that, because of the kid, of the puppy, of I didn't have enough space for it, I didn't have the right yoga pants, I had a million and one excuses. But the truth is the world doesn't slow down, and the world doesn't stop for us to have our moment of peace. It doesn't stop for us to take our moment of self-care. And this is why it's imperative for us to learn to value, right, our energy, our resources enough to keep some for us, to take the time and give that, because nobody's going to make the time for us. We have to make the time. We have to take the time. The time is there. It doesn't need to be made. It doesn't need to be manifested. It needs to be, other things need to be cleared the fuck out and go, wait, you know what, actually, 5 minutes of self-care is a priority for me. And every day I'm going to spend those 5 minutes of self-care. T. Rucker, you have a wonderful day. Vada, you were experiencing tension too, Ree? So again, when you're sitting in meditation, and do you guys want to talk about meditative like positions for a second? We haven't touched on that for a little bit, so we can talk about that too, because there are ways. I used to have a lot of tension in my low back. Sovereign Slade, you held the clarity mudra for 5 minutes. Nice. Yes, Bishop, no one else can do meditation for you. It's got to be you. It's got to be you, right? But you also need to be the one to take those minutes for meditation, right? And if I'm sitting and say I commit to a 5 minute meditation, I got to keep my eyes closed for those 5 minutes and quit peeking, Or, again, it's not about perfection. It's about showing up for the practice. Here's the truth. When I got back into my practice a couple years ago after a really traumatic event, and I was experiencing a major upheaval of all kinds of tension in my life, and I was not ready to meditate. I was not ready to do yoga. I still had my mat, but I was not ready to self care at all. I was way too angry. I was way too emotional. I was way too drunk. So I made a commitment to sit on my mat. For me, it was 15 minutes. To sit on my mat for 15 minutes every day. Didn't matter what I did. And that's where I started. I didn't meditate. I didn't do yoga. Sometimes I sat on my mat literally with my arms crossed like a pissed off little toddler in timeout. Sometimes I threw tantrums on my mat and stomped my feet and kicked my fist and was like, I don't want to fucking do this. And sometimes while I was laying there in those 15 minutes between the tantrums, I would have a few moments of breath. Or because I was sitting there on my mat in this position, I would naturally just kind of like lean into a few stretches. Showing up is the most important part. Showing up for yourself is the most important part. Honestly, again, I don't care what you do in that space. At that time, I was drinking in that space. Is that helpful? No, of course not. But I was trying to do anything except for fight with myself. Vada, you weren't having back pain, you just had to lay down. And that's kind of what I mean too about following your intuition, following what naturally arises, right? So that you can give your body what it needs. It may have needed just to lay down to let the energy move. Bishop, when's the best time to meditate? When you're going to actually do it. When you're going to actually do it. And how many years I have known about and understood the concept of meditation, and how many years ago I started to meditate. But then to go so long without using it, without making the time for it, and making the excuse that I had too much going on. It was too loud. It was too busy. And I'll tell you, sometimes the way to get through that is to sit in a busy fucking room with mosquitoes landing on you and kids' sticky fingers touching you and shit like that, and just being like, nope, I got 5 minutes. Ain't nobody gonna die in 5 minutes. I'm gonna grab the simplest mudra fucking possible, and I'm gonna sit here for 5 minutes with my eyes closed. That said, when I was a kid, we used to like peel our mom's eyelids back. She'd be trying to do that on the couch or something, and we would literally like try to open her eyeballs. So I'm sorry, mother. I love you very much. Okay. Lindsay, you were relaxing, but it did bring a little headache and slight tension in the middle back. Because this works with the third eye, you may very well experience some of that tension, which is why I say during meditation too. If you're doing this practice and it starts to create tension, here's what you can do. I really implore you not to try to push hard past the tension. When tension arises, depending on the type of tension, you can either just adjust, right? If it's in my back, I'm going to adjust my hips a little bit to try to fix that. I had to do it with my shoulders. If it's more than that, ask yourself, like, is this okay? Is this inclusive? Is this okay? And if it's okay, stay with it for a minute. But if it keeps building in intensity, release, let go for a minute. You can always come back to the practice. Right? And what we are working here in this space with is self-love, compassion, curiosity, and willingness. And those things do not influence us, do not compel us to push past our boundaries. Instead, they compel us to be present with our boundaries. And if that means that you have to pause for a few minutes or come back to the practice a different day or try something else entirely, then that is more conducive to building a loving, trusting relationship with yourself than it is to just reliably push yourself past it every time. So I just want to offer that reminder, right? If you're feeling tension, release the tension. If you can't release the tension, release the practice. And ask permission. Ask permission to come back. You had to move the mudra up to your third eye. It did, Bishop. It brought me to now. All parts of the journey. I had to tantrum on the mat first. Reed, you too. You guys were moving the mudras up. Awesome. Good job. Yeah, I'm proud of you guys for doing that, for following your intuition. There are a million gurus out there who will tell you, no, 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 you have to do it exactly like I tell you, and if you do anything different, then you're doing it wrong. It doesn't leave the space for you to explore the practice. And again, eventually, you may find yourself doing every single one of these mudras exactly as it's required or as it's traditionally supposed to be done. I found in my time, the more I let myself explore and play and throw a tantrum and be silly with it and whatnot and do ridiculous shit with my mudras and just explore it, be curious about it. The closer I found, the easier it was to find myself in the traditional right way to do it, right? And that nerve pain went away too. Good, Jeremy. And sometimes it does, right? That's why I mean, ask yourself. I have nerve issues. And so I have to regularly, when I like lose feeling or lose mobility and stuff like that in limbs and things. And I have to ask myself when there's a tiny twinge in my low back or in my neck, does this need a moment, right? Do I need to be really careful about this, or can I push through this? Because for me, if I push through, it means I can't walk. If I push through, I can't pick up anything or turn my head, right? So my body has forced me to have regular, like repetitive conversations with it, to check in with it and trust it that it knows far more than my brain does. My brain just like keeps some of the conscious information. Some. Yes, like recess before a hard class. Do you guys remember those studies they did? I think it must have been in the 90s or early 2000s. It might have been the 90s. Sounds like a 90s thing to do. They were doing these experiments with school age kids where they would have them do either playful stuff or crawl around on the floor. This particular one I remember was the one crawling around on the floor, because crawling bridges both sides of the brain, because you're using your body in alternating, right? Just like touching your right hand to your left foot kind of things, these cross the body things. We don't develop that kind of gross motor skill until I think it's like, oh, it's a little bit, because we have to be able to skip and like hop like that. You've got to be able to have the bridge between both sides of the brain, and we can't really like skip or hop usually until like at least what, maybe 4, 5. What's the matter, puppy? What's the matter? Hello? Hello? Did you need something? Hi. I love him. What does he need? Did you just need some loves? You're usually not a camera hog. Yeah. Yeah, so they were doing this experiment where they had kids, like, I think it was like teenagers, crawling on the floor before they took a test. And they found that the kids who did that activity before the tests reliably scored higher than they previously had. Which is funny, because we it's there you go. Why not just implement it in schools and have kids crawl around on the fucking floor or do, cross brain activities before they do a test? No, that would be too supportive to the children. No, 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 no. My kid just rolled, never crawled. Yeah, I did the inchworm butt scoot. I was an infant and didn't. And then I did the inchworm butt scoot, and then I figured out how to pull myself up onto things. And apparently, once I figured out how to pull myself up onto things, it was 100 miles an hour. I just ran. She said, you never crawled. I don't even think you fucking walked. I think we had to teach you how to walk after you ran, because I probably found that crux of oh, I can just go. The laminin molecule? Sure, I'd love to. This is how we thrive together, right? We educate each other. We teach each other these things. Jody, I bet if kids just took a walk, they'd score higher. Probably. Yeah. There's probably a lot of really simple things that we could do for our kids to encourage full, encourage use of their brain capacity. Like there's also that study that we've talked about before that they did, I think similar time frame, um, about multitasking, about whether or not the brain can actually effectively multitask. And the answer is unequivocally no. And I know when we were talking about it before, somebody was like, my ADHD friend really multitasks very well. Yes, I hear that. And an issue with a thing with ADHD is right, either not being able to focus entirely or being so hyper focused you close out everything else. What they were studying was, if somebody's taking a test, is their brain, do they score better? Or they still score the same if they're distracted and doing other things? And they did it in several different ways too. But it just turned out that unequivocally, the brain has a finite amount of attention. And if you put that attention in one place and then put it in another place as well, it reduces the amount of attention in both places. So it's not actually good for the brain, right? And we can't actually do it very well. Yet we have all of these distracting environments, all of these distracting tools and things, and our brains are busy being distracted. Our brains are used to being. I think one of the biggest things that we're dealing with right now is brains that are so distracted, so used to being entertained in such novel, new, exciting, fast, flashy ways that we're programming our children's brains to expect that kind of environment. And so when they don't have it, then they feel understimulated. Do you need to go outside, honey? Or you need to go outside? Do you want to go outside? Do you want to go outside? I'll let you outside. You don't? Oh, boy.
You're just dogging? You're just hardcore dogging? Oh, he's dogging for sure. Oh, he's dogging for sure. Come on, dog. Let's go dog then. Let's go dog it up.
Dog be dogging. Okay, let's find him a spot to sit. Let's find him a spot. Let me get you a pillow. Hold on, y'all. Dog wants to be involved. We'll get you some pillow space so you can come join us. Okay. Come on. Oh, I know it's really slippery up here. I tried. There you go. There we go. Vada in Seattle, we did have some good hippie teachers that would take us on walks. Good. Yeah, there's a lot of schools and teachers that are really trying to do things and implement these things. But I just, again, it shows culturally how much we value our children and actually their education and actually, education. I really truly believe it should be useful in teaching, critical thinking skills. Like, the best form of education is to teach you how to find and figure out the information that you're looking for. How for you to decipher what's true and what's not. Teaching you how to be responsible for your choices, your words, your thoughts, your behaviors. Like, I really, our education system is not conducive to the things that I believe that education is really supposed to be doing on a foundational level. But that doesn't mean that there aren't some teachers out there trying. But it's the whole system that's not conducive to overall wellness, overall education, actual education. Jeremy, you think Gen Y, but not limited Gen Y. Us Gen Y. Oh, you mean millennial? Oh, I was like, wait, Gen Alpha comes after Gen Z, but Y comes before Z, but X comes before. Wait a minute. Oh, that's how long it took my pirates to process that information. Okay, all right, we're all here, sort of. I can't account for everybody. millennials are collaborating on these things collectively to bring this truth out. You believe quantum is singular science and humans are duality seeking singular. Yeah, it's similar. When we do mindfulness practices, I talk sometimes about the quantum effects of mindfulness. And part of my homeschool program was to teach my child about quantum physics because I wanted him to understand how flexible and unpredictable the universe is, rather than coming at it from a perspective of, oh, I know the universe, it's like it's X and Y and Z and that's it, and it's all very plain and simple. No, I would like you to see that there is magic in the entire universe, sewn into the fabric of everything in the entire universe, and then learn about how the structures work within there, the structures we know about, right? Generational math is hard. It really is. You never remember caring about generations as much as people are into them now. That's more divisiveness, right, Vada? It's more divisiveness. It's such a segregation thing, and I don't like it. Agreed. But you know what I'm seeing too is that here's the really empowering thing. Here's the really beautiful thing is that they might offer us labels, and then they might use those labels as a manipulation, gaslighting tool to create infighting and divisiveness. But as we have done, like in the LGBTQIA community, where we have turned things around that used to be had always been insults, and instead go, you know what? I'm taking that back. I'm taking my power back. Calling me a dyke is not offensive. I'll go, yes! I'm not going to let these things be divisive. Let these things be insulting. And so instead, what we do is we turn them around and we start using them now. Like, I posted a video not long ago when a lot of this stuff talking about Gen X, Gen Zers, and people picking on each other and whatnot. And there was something going on. This Gen X, like, we're here, we're with you guys. It giving me chills even thinking about it because I'm the oldest child and I'm an 84 baby. I'm pretty much right there on that Gen X-ish, indivisible generation, whatever we were, fall between the gap. Mind the gap. When entering and exiting the generation, mind the gap. Oh shit, we lost like 4 years of people in the gap. Damn. Hold on, where was I going? But I suddenly had this very big, huge, like heartwarming moment because in my childhood, as the oldest, what I always wished for was a big sister, a big brother, or somebody to just come home and fix it. Somebody to be there and protect me. Somebody who would tell me that it's okay. Mom's just pissed off right now. The things that I did for my younger siblings. Somebody who would storm into the room when fists were flying and protect me. But in this last year, hearing all the Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Y stuff and all of us talking about it all again and using it, what I have seen more is I love you, little sister. I got you. Hey, big brother. Thank you. And it gives me chills, which means I know that it's something important, and I know that we can use it to bring us together. It's no longer, the schoolyard. We are actually building our families now. And we've all been running through the woods or stuck in cubicles or wherever the hell we were in our little bubbles and shit like that, right? All through our generational whatnots and bullshit. But we are collectively waking up to the fact that we are a collective and that we need each other to thrive. And that's the only way to thrive because we've been trying for several generations to survive like this. And what I'm really grateful for is I'm not hearing so much of the, yeah, well, I was hit as a kid, so I'm fine. Yeah, my life was shitty, but look at me, I'm all right. So, what about it? I'm not hearing as much of that anymore. I'm hearing a lot more of, that sucks. But we're here now. That sucks that happened. I'm sorry. I've got a hug for you now. I've got safe space for you now. Now, today, is all we have. But we can bring back every single one of those moments of being afraid and feeling alone and offer healing and support to each other in such a profound way that it honestly is what is going to change the collective. This is the key. These are the steps. This is the stairway to New Earth. We are the keys. But we must refine ourselves so that we can fit into that lock. Because if we're gummed up with all this other bullshit on top of the key and you're actually carrying this like massive ball of gum and tissues and rubber bands and paper clips and things that you're trying to fucking hold together, my friend, we can start to dismantle that. We need to start to dismantle that so that you can have your key. Because it's one of those, like, we all got to put our keys in the door and start opening each door. Only I can open my door. Only you can open your door. We need you. If the world didn't need you, you would not be here right now. Bill, drinking water from the hose didn't hurt me. Yeah, well, we also didn't have as much massive amounts of, like, fluoride and toxins and things. Okay, I'll say that, but then also I know there was lead paint and, sniffing the gasoline and whatnot, and, like, so... we all got toxified. That's the system. That's the nature of our environment. And what's amazing to me, what's so amazing to me, is how adaptable. Yeah, eating glue, I know. I was more of the, like, paint myself with glue and then peel it off and freak people out one. Yeah. Marker sniffer. Yeah, I sniffed markers. What the fuck were they thinking? Making scented markers? Come on. Talk about a gateway drug. Scented markers. Your friend Sally and I tried all the glue. My friend Sarah and I ate paper. But I think we did it more because we were in school and it was obtuse and it was weird and it made people look at us funny. Yeah, you peel it off too. Right, Ree? They were planning the vape all the way back then. Yep. We were clearly lacking something in our diets, you guys. Glue, paper, pencils. Absolutely obtuse reasons. In fact, I think it might have started because we were trying to not get notes seen, right? So we actually started eating paper at random, so the teacher didn't know if we were eating a note or not. So we just started eating fucking my poor parents. Why do you only buy a donut for lunch at school? Why don't you eat anything else? I don't know. I'm not hungry. I've been eating college ruled loose leaf. Why did I need more? How'd you run out of paper so fast? Well, I don't know. You still have a photo of Emily's first bite of paper. Vada, we were absolutely, like, sliced from the same part of the pie when creation was happening. I adore you. Oreo flavor. Wait, what? 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 Hold on a minute, Reed. Did you just say that to me? Did you just say that? Wait, are you joking? Are you joking? Because I'm gullible. Did you just get me? Ree says, try new Oreo flavored notebooks today. You're kidding. Of course you're kidding. Of course you're kidding. I mean, they made scented markers. I wouldn't be surprised if they made flavored paper. Jeremy, they knew by the black marks on our noses. Okay, you're joking. But we did have all the flavored chapstick. You're right. You're right. You're right. So, it's about perspective. All of these generations shifting the perspective, shifting the very things that they're using as divisiveness and turning them into the glue that ties us together, that holds us together. Dr. Pepper was one of my favorite flavors. Dr. Pepper and, I don't know, I was like a pineapple, peach, that kind of, I always like those kind of, or lemon lime kind of flavors. But I remember liking Dr. Pepper. Nope, not a cotton candy person. No. I'm more bitter and sour. That's why the mosquitoes don't like me that much, because I'm bitter and sour. Oh, perfect, Jeremy. Thank you very much. I'm actually talking about the laminin molecules now. Perfect. Then it will be exactly the thing, and then you're gonna make a connection in my brain. That I'm gonna go. My brain's gonna go, yay! It adds more pieces to the thing, to the puzzle. Coffee and Dr. Pepper are your drinks. Okay. So, our mudra. What's our mudra for the week? By Saturday, you guys are gonna be spelling it. Well, it connects the Bible to science. Perfect. A lot of what I have done, so for those of you who are new here, sorry I didn't even introduce myself today at all. Hi, my name is Reverend Deborah. I am an interfaith minister. I am a movement facilitator, movement in breath, body, and being, and I am your shenanigan shaman. Because do we talk about serious things in here? Yes, absolutely. But do we take ourselves too seriously? Abso-fucking-lutely not. We do not do that in here. And we know that shenanigans and playfulness often create the space for us to find inner peace rather than the tension that comes with the other things. So, hello again. Hello. Hi. But I was adding what I was going to say. Wait a minute. Where are we, pirates? It's a shenanigan kind of day. I went to college. I started college at 17. And spent more than 12 years in university and workshops and things, because first I went to college because I realized that I needed to learn, I need to be taught how to be a decent human. The environment I came from was very not conducive to wellness at all, or to peace, or to happiness, or to any like safety, security. And through early therapy sessions growing up, I realized that there were, wait a minute, actual tools that I could use to communicate better and like set boundaries better and protect my body so I wouldn't get fucking like for asking the wrong question at the wrong time. Oh shit, I love this. So I went as a child through therapy, and then as a 17-year-old started college to just learn how to be a human and to learn how to parent, because I wanted to be a parent. I knew that for sure, and I did not want to continue what I was creating, what I was experiencing, right? I didn't want to recreate that. The gift I received from that many years and following my own impetus to, learn for me, not for a degree, I ended up studying human development and wellness across the lifespan, from prenatal to postmortem. I'm a death midwife, I'm a birth doula, as a minister, and I do counseling, energy work, herbalism, nutrition. Like the laundry list of the actual like certifications or titles that I have is quite a good one. But those certifications and titles don't matter. The most important thing, the most amazing thing, was when I started to see all of the overlap, because I was also born into a Catholic family, and my earliest experience through those traumatic events, was a deeply profound relationship, an intimate relationship with Christ consciousness, and with what I have come to call source. I don't use the word God, right, for my concept of it. I like the word source. I was gifted my family's lineage of energy work when I was about 7. Began being taught how to use it when I was 7. All of this spirituality, wanting to be a nun, learning energy work, and understanding on a visceral level the way that God lives within me and within each of us, source lives within and through us, was always so separate from what I was learning in school, or the concepts should be, right? These science and religion, they don't have dinner together. Yet through 12 plus years of studying and going through all of these different things, I found the things that weave it together. did I do a first Holy Communion. So I was baptized as an infant, and then when I went to go through my communion is actually when I left the church. At that point in my life, I had already had very intense, very personal spiritual experiences outside of the church. And I was also already seeing, because my stepdad was a devout Catholic who was also throwing fists at home and also stealing people's money elsewhere. And, yeah. I saw it was glaringly obvious for me that what I sought was not in the church. And I was really grateful because I was, 12, that, and I was in Florida. We were in the Florida Keys, so we went to the biggest church on the island. But because it was the Florida Keys, it wasn't quite as staunch as some other churches might have are. And the priest pulled me aside because in the classes I was intentionally being just stupid rude. They'd ask a question that was a simple question, and I would answer the most complicated, totally irrelevant other part of the Bible story, and I would just answer everything wrong on purpose and did all these ridiculous things. Finally, the priest pulled me aside. He goes, "Hey, seems like you don't want to be here." And I was like, "No, actually, not." And for the first time, it was probably one of the first experiences that I remember in my life. One of the first experiences where genuinely an adult, one I even looked up to, one I respected, sat down with me and said, "Tell me what you really think. Tell me how you really feel. Tell me what's really going on." And unlike the other adults in my life, he didn't dismiss me. He didn't belittle what I was feeling or thinking. He didn't explain it away, even. He listened intently and he asked probing questions so that he could understand where I was coming from. And then he literally released me from the church. He said, "I will talk to your stepdad. I hear you. And it's important that you explore your personal relationship with God, with Christ." He gave me such a beautiful permission and didn't shame me at all for leaving the church. I thank that man many times over. Yeah, because there aren't a lot of religious leaders like that. And for the fact that he opened it up and said, "Go find God. Go be with God." He said the church, and he explained to me too, he said the church is for people who don't know how to find him outside, or feel safer within this community, or who are still learning how to have their relationship, whatnot. He's like, if you already know him outside of the church, then come visit us. He's like, but you don't have to be here all of the time. He's like, this is the place where we study and we grow in our relationship with him. That is the place where we understand and have our relationship with him. Makai, similar stories for you as well. Beautiful. Hey, Calyptos. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that a lot because it helped me shape, right, the person I decided to be. Gave me permission to be the person I want to be when I didn't have a lot of that. But it was through those differences, right? Going to school and finding that the energy work that I was using from my family, that my mother had taught me when I was a child, that energy work correlates to the concepts of these other lineage of energy work. And let me take it further here too, because the Vedic sciences, which have been around potentially as far back as 1500 BC, which is where we have a large breadth of study of the energy body and of the chakras. That development of the chakras, the way that they describe the development of the chakras and the correlation between their development and child development, human development and wellness, psychological development, social emotional development, cognitive development, gross motor skill development, balancing autonomy versus shame and doubt, how our bodies settle in to the energetic pattern is parallel to how they settle in to physical patterns, to cognitive patterns, social emotional patterns. These all align. It's so funny to me that we want to use, right? A lot of times people want to use science to debunk energy or spirituality and things like that, and you go, but it's literally right there in front of you that they are the same. It's just about perspective. It's just about what angle you're looking at it from. To me, it's spiritual science. And people will tell you that the Vedic sciences are not a science because they don't use the same exact scientific method that we use now. But that scientific method that we use now, we think of it as the end-all be-all authority for discovery and for understanding of our universe. But here's the thing. Another beautiful, beautiful insight I received from yet another teacher along the way. This was my environmental science teacher, second term of college, I think, where he said, define a fact. Tell me what a fact is. And so everybody took pencil to paper, diligently explaining, as flourished in our explanation, young college students, what is a fact? Oh, this should be easy. I'm going to describe a fact. Not a single one of us gave him the answer he was looking for. And he said, a fact is only a fact because it hasn't been proven wrong yet. The idea is that a fact is only a fact until someone proves it wrong, because we can never empirically prove something always right. That does not, right? There's always the space that someday, every 1 billion years, this thing happens and gravity doesn't work the way that we think it does. The universe doesn't move the way that we thought it does. We just hadn't seen all the evidence to show us that it's not true. Again, a beautiful, really powerful shift in perspective that changed the way that I approached facts and what people thought of as facts, what people told me were facts. Facts. You can't prove it empirically true. You can only prove it not wrong yet. Now, mind you, there are some facts, there are some truth that we have been proving, again, not wrong, again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And we usually take these as fact. A fact is what most of us believe is true. Yeah. But even now, right? And now, we have found ourselves in a time for our collective, where facts are not even facts just because they haven't been proven wrong yet. Now, people take things that haven't been proven wrong, and they will tell you that, watch, I can prove it. I can prove it wrong. I'm gonna have to point out flat earthers here. Like, the amount of science that we can use. I can go out there and test with a measurement and a light and a paper plate and shit like that the curvature of the planet. If you study astronomy, you can understand why the stars move the way that they do move. I heard an argument recently for flat earth that why do we always see the Big Dipper in the sky? First of all, that's a very North American centric question to ask, because it's not always right there for everybody else all the way around the planet. And I think it's like 5th grade science that we learned that the Big Dipper is positioned pretty much above our North Pole. So the way that the planet rotates around, it's going to stay pretty much right there. That's why it's part of helping us to navigate in the sky, and has been for a very long time. But yeah, I should skip all of that and jump to an assumption. Jump over the facts, jump over the information that we have used to test it as true for now, and make up my own story about it. And make short-sighted connections. This is, to me, probably one of the scariest things that's happening out in the world, is where we make these jump connections. That this is a kind of gaslighting, and we can gaslight ourselves, right? So I don't mean it's coming from some malicious, somebody's trying to manipulate you. I mean, like, when we miss the information and we make those jump assumptions, and there's other things down here that we're not getting, sometimes other people will hear that jump and not have this either, and they'll go, oh, that totally makes sense, because collectively we're not even looking at the rest of the information. Again, it's like the astronomy thing here with the Big Dipper. Why is it always up there? I have also heard it as an argument for flat earth. Why is it always up there? And literally people go, oh my God, I've never thought of that. Oh, and I just go, dude, if you just had the in-between information that gets you there and explains why. Bill, the earth is flat is because it's been left out too long, like left out of the oven. So, like, you know, the cake. Sorry, that just made me think of a cheesecake. Like when you're cooking a cheesecake, you're not supposed to disturb it because if you do, it might fall. So maybe just go, oh, are we just like a deflated ball in space? And sorry, I love it. I love it. Huh.
How much longer on your life?
Son, how much longer on your chore?
My life's done.
Great. Then go work on your chore, please. Scuden, thank you. The truth is simple. What gets complex is evading the truth. And I say this, I've been saying this more often lately. Truth does not need to be talked about a bunch. It doesn't need to be over explained. It doesn't need to. And the issue that we're seeing now is that the use of argument fallacy and cognitive dissonance and these like jump skipping over other information to make a conclusion, which is an argument fallacy, um, these kinds of ways of talking about information and manipulating information end up keeping us in ignorance and end up creating a well, a swamp, if you want to call it that, of false information based on argument fallacies. And again, without the perspective to look at this information, without taking ourselves to a place of curiosity and willingness and saying, interesting. Because when flat earth stuff comes up, I do. I listen. Because if you're right, that's a huge difference. So I'm listening. But almost every time I listen, there's this bit of information where I go, oops, that's an argument fallacy you just used. Oops, you just skipped over some information right there. This is what I said right in the beginning. This is why I wish that our education system would actually teach discernment, would actually teach reflection and logical communication or logical processes of thinking, higher processes of thinking, so that we can examine information. What do we need more? I think what do the kids need more than anything is the ability to personally examine the information that is in front of them. When one lives in their own truth, life becomes bliss, Scuden. And isn't that authenticity? And yet, again, we live in a world that fights and says, well, if my truth is true, then your truth can't be true. If our perspectives are different, then my truth and your truth can't exist in the same echo chamber. But they can, because we're all facets of the multifaceted gem. We're all looking at different parts of the elephant. We need to be able to communicate these things to each other and to be able to share our perspectives and share our understanding and knowledge, because from where I'm standing, the world looks like this, and from where you're standing, the world looks like this, and from where you're standing, the world looks like this. And if we all come together, then we can see all the perspectives. And we can see the whole damn thing, because I can't get on that side. I've never been in your shoes. I will never be in your shoes. I will never be in your skin. I will never be in your life. I will never be able to understand what that is. However, if you share your experience with me and I am truly willing to be curious about it and to receive your experience as valuable, even if it's, especially when it's different from mine, then I have the opportunity for deeper understanding, for gaining knowledge that is not available to me unless you share it. It's amazing what one can accomplish when one no longer seeks recognition. And what does that recognition, the need for recognition, come out of? Usually imbalance. Because when I am truly in my truth, when I'm in my truth, when I'm in my authentic nature, and I'm aligned and balanced enough to be in my truth and be authentic with my energy, then I don't need anybody else to approve of it. I don't seek that recognition. If I seek that recognition, there is a misalignment somewhere in my system. When we talk about misalignment just from the foundation of energy, right? Everything in the universe is just molecules vibrating at different frequencies. My unique frequency manifests my unique self into this reality. And therefore, I also have a unique frequency at which I resonate, at which my authenticity resonates. I like to think of it like the voices in a chorus or the colors in the full spectrum of color, right? We need every bit of it for the whole thing, for it to create the rainbow, for it to create the beautiful song, for it to all function in its intended flow, in its intended rhythm. That's why it breaks my heart, right? When I come across people who feel like their perspective is not valuable, or their experiences are not valuable, or are so seeking for recognition from others that you know that the self-love is not there. Now uh, this came up yesterday and I wanted to talk about it too, about self-love, right? Oftentimes we're told when our lives are not going very well, or when we're not feeling very well, when we're not, when things are not happening well for us, when life gets difficult, when there's tension, sometimes we're told things like, oh, it's just because you're not manifesting it well enough, or oh, you're vibrating at the wrong frequency. Like there's this whole spiritual gaslighting piece that we can really devolve into when our lives have tension or struggle or chaos going on in them, and it causes this sort of like shame or doubt of self. Oh, you just don't love yourself enough. That's why other people don't treat you well, right? Oh, you're just not manifesting well enough. Oh, you're not meditating enough. Oh, you're not focusing enough. Oh, you're not spiritual enough. Oh, you're not a chosen one. All of this bullshit. I want to step back from it because it really threw me. And people say, well, you just don't love yourself enough. That's why the people treat you like shit. And I would go look in the mirror and go, look, you know what? I genuinely do. I genuinely do love myself. Do I have flaws and am I in moments shitty and other times great? Sure, yeah, I do love myself. So what does that mean? What does that energy mean? It's about valuing my resource, valuing myself enough to be mindful, even selective, with my energetic resource. It's going to lead me to my authenticity. What's the matter? It's just blowing in the wind. It's just the door blowing in the wind. Nobody's out there. Okay. I love you too, Ricky. Rainbow Goddess was a gifted reminder to never be destroyed. Another thing religion taught wrong. And what do you mean? I'll pick that up too, Scootin. What do you mean, Bill? Flat earthers don't believe themselves. It's a game. Perspective, guys. Perspective is so important. Learning to cultivate perspective. Learning to cultivate the tools to gain perspective, right? Aligning my intention and my attention. Meeting what arises with curiosity and willingness. Meeting others with curiosity and willingness. Being able to be present in the moment. That's what gives me the opportunity to decide who I want to be in each moment. Allow me to be responsible for my choices rather than just reactive, and therefore a victim of my choices. Bill, they're testing me. I don't know if I would subscribe to the idea that every person who touts the belief of of being a flat earther is truly trying to just get one over on everybody else. I think that's a bit of a reach in way that it's an assumption about a large swath of people that we don't know all personally. Scootin'. Life is a game itself. The mind is like a parachute. If it's not open, it does not work well. And what this mudra is a mudra that helps with that, with opening the third eye, with releasing ego clinging. So here is the ego clinging release mudra. Again, the Ashvaratna Mudra, the mudra for perspective to help open the third eye and help clear away blockages that are preventing you from getting that higher perspective. So again, bring the hands together as if you're in prayer. Keep the pinkies and the ring fingers together and the thumbs, and fold the pointer and the middle down. Create a little bit of space in here. You can keep the base of your palms together, or you can open them up. Create a little bit of space and anchor it to your chest. The Ashvaratna Mudra for perspective. If we feel ourselves becoming agitated, triggered, pushed and pulled by other people's energy, whether it be in their words or in their actions, or in just their appearance, sometimes we are triggered by. I invite you to take this mudra for a few minutes, ideally 5 if you can muster it, but bring about some perspective. It's important that we learn how to meet each other with curiosity and willingness rather than judgment or condemnation. After what happened on Saturday, to the former president, it reminds us why it's important to make space for each other. I've seen several posts and videos of people arguing about it, saying things like, oh darn, they missed, right? This particular post that I saw was somebody saying that. And the person who commented after met them with judgment and condemnation, and was just like, how deplorable of you, how horrible of you, you and people like you are all like this, and and I just watched the back and forth of several comments before I finally commented. And I know I'm rolling my eyes at myself doing it, because I feel like people are all out there just throwing mud at each other. But the truth is do you not think that the young man, barely out of boyhood, who committed that act, you think he was met with understanding, with curiosity and willingness, or judgment, or condemnation? When I made my comment after the list of comments about what was going on back and forth between these folks, someone commented on what I said and said, it's okay to condemn people for wishing, end of life on someone else. And I had to respond with, but really is it? Really is it? Because what is condemnation? It's not understanding. What do we offer when we condemn? Do we offer compassion? Do we offer understanding? Do we offer the opportunity to, do we offer listening? Do we often even offer curiosity? Oftentimes when people end up behaving in a way that's so radical or rash, it is not as a first option. And to meet that kind of aggression, imbalance, rage, and grief with, again, condemnation and judgment, and this does not create space, hold space, make space at all for understanding. And oftentimes when we are hurting, the thing we need most is compassion and understanding. It's like when somebody's angry and raising their voice about something and someone says, I agree with you, but I don't like how you're saying it. I'm not going to listen to you until you change your tone or something like that. It's like, you know what? Yes, in some way, sometimes, yes, absolutely, I can change my tone. But there's other times where I'm fucking pissed and I have every fucking right to raise my fucking voice and to tell people that they shouldn't have the emotions they're having when they're in the middle of having them does nothing but a disservice to the human standing before you, literally begging for help with that kind of a big emotional upheaval. Jeremy, same. But again, we see it, we can see it for what it is. We don't have to, people were arguing whether it was staged or not, or who did it or not, and people blaming all this pointing fingers and all that stuff. Again, I like right now, I am not concerned with that. I am concerned with the core of the problem, which is this inability to meet each other with any kind of compassion and willingness, much less with curiosity and willingness, much less compassion or grace. There you go. There you go. There's more space up there. You can sit up there now. I love you. What do you need? What do you need? Do you just want to be laying here? Okay, all right. And what did we see perpetuated, right? In the face of after that, immediately after the event happened, what was the first response? Was to perpetuate more of that, wouldn't it? The first response was perpetuate more. Get them back. Get revenge. We do not find healing through division. And to be honest, we are very weak on our own against large powers, right? Because there is a large power. There are large powers that be in this world. But when we shift our perspective and realize that we are not alone, we are not divided. In fact, more than ever now, I feel like we have the opportunity to unite in a collective way that is really, really powerful and potentially world-changing. But I don't think the key to changing the world and to making that shift is to continue the same way we've been doing this for so long. Two wrongs don't make a right. If you fight fire with fire, you get a bigger fucking fire. Causing people pain, stepping on each other, dismissing each other, wishing ill will on each other, none of these things bring us together. None of these things bring us healing. And I'm tired of people pretending like it's some childish, immature hope that we could be reasonably decent humans, at least for a reasonable amount of time in our lives. It's childish. Do I get childish sometimes when I'm mad? Totally. Do you? Probably. We have childish parts of ourselves, so when we see someone behaving like a child, we should not treat them like an abusive parent. But instead, we can reparent them just the same way we reparent ourselves, with curiosity, with willingness, by holding space. Like when your toddler is throwing a fucking tantrum and you know he's a toddler, so you sit back and you just hold space and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna make sure you don't hit your head somewhere. Like, go for it, kid. Scream and cry and do what you need. And once your energy dissipates a little bit, we can talk. Makai. Do I have any hope for humanity when we see this day in and day out? Yes, I do. Because what we see is amplified, a small portion of what's happening amplified. Because what I'm also seeing in my personal interactions is not a lot of that. Remember that the media does a very good job dividing us. The media does a very good job sending us the message that the world is in chaos and we should be afraid and we should feel scared of our neighbors and we should hate each other and we should argue over these things because our very lives depend on it. And I'm sorry, my very life does not depend on a variety of things that go on in DC. However, more recently, some of those things have actually become threatened. And it's at this point where we have to look very honestly at ourselves and our choices and become responsible for ourselves and our choices and say, do I want to be the kind of person that ushered in healing to our world or helped tear it apart? When my children's children's children, if I somehow end up in a history book somewhere, what are they going to say about me? When I sit back and reflect on my life after my energy shifts, if I even get the chance to, when I'm laying, taking my last breaths, it's something I've never understood about the world, honestly. The need for fighting and belittling each other, and the need for some people to feel so arrogant and huge that they belittle and hurt others in such a way. It's never really been able to compute in my head. And I hope that there are more and more people like me who it just doesn't compute. Because if it just doesn't compute, then I know we're not gonna engage in it. We're not gonna perpetuate it. And when we see someone who is encouraging it, who is throwing their fist in the air and telling them to do more of it, who is throwing snide comments online and tearing people down and using disgusting language, abhorrent. How do we disarm? We hold space. We meet with compassion and understanding. We ask ourselves first, I wonder what hurt them. I wonder what caused such an imbalance for them to be wishing such ill will on others. They must really be hurting. Perspective. Perspective. If I can shift my perspective, stop giving other people power, maintain my power, means I'm not going to be manipulated by the divisive rhetoric out there. I'm going to keep my eyes and all three of them open and truly look at what information comes across my field of vision, truly look at it from a curious and willing perspective. Muck, you say you agree, but so many people depend on the media. I can only pray, teach, share, and connect and hope that's enough. And that's all we can do. But the reality is that we lift the collective out of it, right? When we individually work toward our authenticity and our healing and our balance. Okay. Ooh, Alicia, that's a fantastic question. My brain just went in like 3 different directions, so let me gather the pirates here really quick. There's the 100-month monkey theory that we have scientific, psychological, whatever evidence for. This idea that when a group of primates learns a new skill, when you teach 1 or 2 of them a new skill, a useful skill even, right? And then they go and they teach the other monkeys how to do it. It's at first an arduous process. There's a couple that know it, they're learning, the other ones don't learn very fast, some of them give up on it, whatnot. But there becomes a point, the 100th monkey, a tipping point, where when enough of them learn this thing, then it becomes very easy for all the other monkeys to learn it. It's almost as if they already knew it. They've tested this repeatedly. So when you say that you can only pray, teach, share, and connect and hope that's enough, my friend, I believe that is. That's the most of what we can do, is to show up authentically, raise our own vibration, to literally be the change, to model the changes we want to see by doing it every day. If you don't want to fund war in another country, then literally stop giving your money to it. Look up the companies that support those things and don't buy from them. and spread the word. Teach, share, hold space for others, and do so in a way that isn't threatening or arrogant so that people can receive and feel safe in that space. Remind them that they are their own guru, and instead of relying on you for all the answers, they can turn within and find them here. And these are going to be the truest truths you will ever find. And anything you find out here must come through this first. My weighing station in my heart. Alicia, I want to get to your question, but I want to add this piece here too. The heart. You're very welcome, Maki. And I want to remind you of this piece too. The heart is made up of something called defibrillator cells. Defibrillator cells are responsible for making the heart go bubble, 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 bubble. When you take a defibrillator cell away from the rest of the heart, away from the healthy rest of the heart, put it in a petri dish by itself, what happens? It begins to atrophy. It starts to die. It starts to... All you need to do to heal that one little cell is to bring it back into the group of healthy defibrillator cells. This is how we lift each other up. This is how we collectively evolve. This is how we collectively heal. When one of the cells is imbalanced, out of rhythm with the rest, we don't push it out, because then it will die or get worse and then come back for revenge, kind of, right? Like, that's how we create suffering, further suffering. The way to raise our collective vibration is through inclusion, not exclusion. This is, again, scientific defibrillator cells in our heart. Use this truth, use this fact that we can take apart the body and find these cells that do this thing. Which means my heart, in and of itself, let's macro a little bit, is a defibrillator cell. I have a rhythm. My system has a frequency, has a breath, has a beat to it. It's my own music. And if I raise that vibration, other people who seek that raise actually start to kind of gravitate, right? That's how we who are doing this work end up with people coming around us and are like, hey, I need what you're doing. Okay, but it's not from me. You have to generate it within you, and that's the key. Please, if you are a coach, if you are a teacher, if you are a whatnot, please stop taking in people for your ego and hold space for their ego, for their captain, for their self, for their guru, for their guru. We are electromagnetic beings. That means that as we collectively raise our individual vibrations, that 100 monkey theory becomes an energetic truth, a collective truth. Like, we are being manipulated and gaslit by being told that all of these things outside of ourselves are what we need to do. Should we pay attention to where our resources go? Yes. I do not want to be financially supporting certain companies that are doing certain behaviors, so I'm going to retract my resources from there and put it in other places. My money, my energy, my attention, my thoughts. I don't need to fill my space with divisive rhetoric. I don't need to sort through he said, she said, whatnot. I can step back and remain curious about the information that's going on, right? And work to align myself with what's true here. This is the highest truth that is available to you. And again, as somebody who started really early with a relationship with divinity, God is right here. Source is right here. Christ is right here. Whatever term or energy or name or a deity or thing that it represents for you, it has always been right here. And I want to ask you, because this is what my heart asked me when I found this little place in here. It said, if you knew that God itself was right here experiencing everything you experience, hearing every bit of your self-talk, hearing every judgment about yourself, feeling every fear and insecurity, every doubt, every moment of shame and guilt. If you held divinity in your heart and it was always with you, always listening, always feeling, always experiencing, how would you treat yourself? If you knew that your vessel was an echo chamber directly to divinity, how would you treat yourself? How would you let others treat you? How would you let others within this space? And how would you treat others if you knew that God also was sitting right there in their heart, not somewhere up in the sky, not far away, not going through a priest to get to this? No, right here, right now, not through the horse's mouth, but having a face-to-face, one-on-one, personal interaction with you and everyone else in this universe. Would you not treat your neighbor a little differently if you knew God was watching from there? I know that this idea of religion, oftentimes, religion facilitates a kind of infantile relationship with our higher power where we're nervous. Oh, if God knew I was behaving like this, ooh, God would, I have to seek forgiveness for the bad things I do. And ooh, I don't want to get punished. When I was Catholic, it's, you got to say your Hail Marys or you're going to get punished. I just realized that my family has a weird history of getting struck by lightning. And that, thanks, pirates. Thanks, pirates. I have not been. But this again leads us to this infantile relationship, this message that I have to go repent and apologize for all the things I did to some big daddy sky god who's going to punish me if I didn't do them right. This influences the very way that we treat each other, that we interact with our parents and our children and our, like this whole concept of if you do wrong, then you're going to be punished. Somebody has to decide what's right and wrong, and somebody has to deliver that punishment. I don't remember where it was, but I remember reading about a tribe somewhere that instead of ostracizing someone, say someone has become really greedy and regularly steals the excess, steals excess food and or is causing problems and starting fights all the time in their community. They do what I learned as circle up. They bring that person into the center of the community, and the community stays with them, and the community works together to resolve whatever's happening. When I was a preteen, I guess, I went on an outward bound trip. I spent 18 days in the Everglades. And the way that we dealt with any issue that went on, because you couldn't kick somebody off in the middle of the Everglades with 5 canoes or whatever we had, 6 canoes, and yeah, you can't just kick somebody off. So how do we resolve these things, especially with preteen emotions and hormones and all that crazy shit? I tell you. We circled up every single time. Every single time there was any sort of discord, any sort of problem, or anything that needed to be dealt with. Every single person in the group sat together in the circle and worked and participated in bringing us back to cohesive. If you've never experienced that, let me tell you how effective it is. Extremely effective. For several reasons. One, we don't all want to sit in a fucking circle for all day long, all the fucking time. So we ended up resolving a lot of our things outside of the circle before it became a big deal, because we're like, I don't want to fucking do that. And then everybody gets mad at me when I'm the person who brings us into a circle. Forget it, right? So it encourages an amount of personal responsibility. And then it encourages an amount of collective responsibility. There's no more of this, it's not my problem, it's not my fault, it's not my family, it's not my house, so I'm just going to turn a blind eye and not help. It's divisive. It's isolating. And it's the exact same way of operation that has gotten us to where we're at now. My mom in particular was struck by lightning 3 different times. Okay, so Alicia, I wanted to go back and ask your question, answer your question here because it's a whole nother. I wanted to give it a similar amount of time. You ask, are people contracted to be the darkness so that it compels us to change? I really like to talk about like the theories, the concepts of like why we exist, why humans exist, what our purpose is, what we're doing, and all that kind of stuff. Um, so let me try to make sure that I get direct through this because I can come at it from like seven or eight different angles, and so I sometimes get lost in there. So hone in on the one that I want to start with. I like to imagine the analogy of humanity as a body. And the Everglades has no ice cream though. All of humanity as a body. My Makai, sorry, am I saying your name right? I see the things on there. Makai, right? Thank you for subscribing. Welcome, welcome, my friend. Okay. Makai. Okay, Makai. Humanity as a body. For my body to function, my body needs feet so I can walk on it and get around. My body needs lubricated joints so it can move around and do the things it needs, right? My body needs a certain amount of muscle to lift heavy stuff, my body itself. My body needs the eyes so that I can observe the world. My body needs my ears so that I can hear what's happening. My body needs my taste buds so that I can experience all these different aspects of food, and maybe so I can also decide if something's bad and not good for me to eat, right? Humanity needs the hands to care for us. Humanity needs the shoulders to carry heavy weights, right? Or to lift us up higher so we can see. Humanity needs the belly, the womb, for creation and continuation of the species, right? We also need armpits to process the toxins so our body does not get overwhelmed with toxins. We also need weird little nose hairs to help protect our bodies from collecting a bunch of, bullshit debris that's not good for the system. We also need the asshole to process the shit our systems don't need anymore. I need sneezes and farts to let go of, again, more of the stuff my body doesn't need. And so to answer, right, to respond there, is are we contracted, some people, to be the darkness so that we can be prompted to change? I think that the answer is a yes, and not so intentionally. Like, I don't talk from a perspective of there is a sentient God that makes a decision for what your life is going to be and what your destiny is going to be, right? And or what your job is to do. I don't think it's that the way that we think about it in our limited little human brains. I think it's a little bit more expansive and a little bit more in depth, and I talk about it from a place of energetic frequency. Yes, we need the full spectrum of frequency, of expression, from the darkest of dark to the brightest of light. Right? That is the experience. And there it is, Alicia, wondering if we should be grateful for the souls carrying out the bad without it perhaps no change. Here's what I say. When I find people being real assholes, this is my perspective shift. What I do for myself is I offer myself a perspective shift and I look at them like my own asshole and go, thank you. Thank you for being that part of humanity. Because to be honest, I don't want to process this shit. I don't want to be in a place of suffering or, in a life that fucking stinks all the fucking time. But I know people who seem to dig in deeper. Right? Yeah, maybe out of their imbalance. And here's the thing, is as we purify the body, the collective, the shit doesn't stink so bad anymore, does it? We don't sweat as hard anymore. It doesn't smell so fucking bad because we're not getting rid of all these toxins. Could we potentially be walking ourselves into a collective alignment, a collective individual evolution, enlightenment, ascension, clarifying the collective through the individual, because it's all micro macro. Okay, and some of us crawl out of it. Exactly. This is why I love the analogy, because you can go really deep, really far, and get really gross with it if you'd really like to. But it gives me the perspective. When I see somebody behaving in a way that I find offensive, or I want to judge, or I want to be mad about, or I want to tell them you got to heal and change what you're doing, I remind myself, you know what? The world needs assholes. The world needs the taint to bridge the gap between the asshole and the goods. The world needs the freaking nose hairs and ear hairs and balding heads. The world needs all of these things. So yeah, take the perspective shift. And next time you see somebody being part of the body that you would snub your nose at, remind yourself that it's important to love your entire body. Does that mean, look, love your asshole, okay? It's important to make sure to keep it clean, to wipe it well, to wash it. You don't need to go diving in it, right? We don't all need to spend all of our time playing in there. So, when you meet an asshole out in the world, don't spend all of your time playing in it. Don't go rolling around in it. Don't go climbing up inside to see what else is in there. You can simply take a perspective shift and walk the fuck away. Find some fresher air. Okay? This is why they call me the shenanigan shaman. Shit like that. Take that perspective shift. Good. And I hope, Makai, that in your rebirth, you will integrate, right? Dying of laughter. And when you rebirth, I hope that you integrate this in, and that it affords you a little more space, a different perspective, so that instead of being pushed and pulled and triggered and feeling like you need to engage with that asshole, you don't have to stick your head up there. It's not yours. It is not yours. The only one that you should spend excess time on is your own. Yes, my son.
How much longer is on the live?
No, babe, you're supposed to be in there and doing this chore. The question is are you done with the job? If you're not done with the job, then you should not be in here twirling circles and asking questions. Or you should not be in the dirt looking for toys and making potholes for me to step in. I'm going to bite your nose. It's looking really edible today, and I am hungry. So I suggest that you go and work on your chore, work on your job, work on your task. There's the word. That's a better word.
Love you.
Love you. Just show me initiative. Show me some participation.
I'm a little hungry.
I bet you are. Did you eat your breakfast first? Before your job?
Yeah.
Okay, then if you did, then you can wait until I'm off. Okay. Love you. Dang, Alicia's about to lose a nose. Te amo todo el tiempo, mijo. Analogies are really good for perspective shifts. And I feel like I might be doing all right by my kid if he can come up with some perspective shift like that Grinch thing. Hey, Thor, how are you? Were you here the other day when I was talking about my son and the Grinch? Make no mistake, Alicia, thank you. You said it was quite lovely listening to that interaction. Make no mistake, I am not a perfect parent. We have difficult moments, and in fact, I am a very loud, frustrated person. When I get frustrated, my first response is to raise my voice. And I project my voice, too. So it's one of those things that's like, even when I'm excited, my voice goes up and projects. So I'm not perfect. Have I said mean things that I've had to apologize for to my son? Absolutely. We're humans. And we have a saying in my house, a rule in my house, I guess, right? We're all humans. And humans make mistakes. We're not perfect. So it's not about never making a mistake. It is about being able to take responsibility for your mistake. And what does that look like? In our house, it looks like verbally acknowledging responsibility. Does that have to include the word sorry? No, actually. It doesn't even include the word sorry. It can be, I recognize that when I did this thing, it crossed the boundary that you already told me not to cross. And I definitely did that, and I didn't mean to upset you. Okay. And now what are we doing moving forward? Moving forward, I will make a note for myself to remind me, right, of your boundary, like this, doing the lives and him coming in and asking questions that aren't necessary. We're working on that boundary. But the important piece of that we always include, is this last one, where we ask, how can I, in this moment, is there something that I can do to make repair? Right? Not make it right, not fix it for you, but how can we work together to repair this little rift? Because a little rift is a little something, and you just take some stitching and needle and thread, and you stitch that right up. But if you leave it there and it rips deeper and deeper and deeper, it becomes a chasm that breeds resentment. And the last thing I want in my relationship with my son is resentment. None of our perfectly imperfect. That's right. What Jeremy? What are you saying there? The dishes are sucky, but glad you tried to do those chore requests. Valued in the long run. And that's the thing. That's where we're at right now. Hey, Leb, where I'm like, literally, son. It's like self care first, and then second is like caring for your space and potentially this people in your space that kind of fall together, right? Some days dishes are more important than some days snuggles are more important, right? But right now, that's the only thing that he's got to do, because everything else has fallen to a place where he can do relatively, decent self care, feeds himself relatively well. I've taught him how to cook. I've taught him what's healthy and what's not. He's been dressing himself since he was like 2. He bathes himself just fine at 8. He does a lot of things on his own. But he has recently decided that he does not have to participate in cleaning up his messes in the house. And it's a shift recently, and I know that it's a attempt to gain more control over his environment and over his autonomy. Um, so we're working with that. It does help a lot to understand the psychology of what's going on, right? And the energy of what's going on at 8. He is working in his heart chakra. And so for me, the fact that he's avoiding these care for the house and clean up your mess kind of things is actually an indication that he is somehow feeling unloved and unseen. That his needs aren't getting met here. Because he is exerting his power that he has just gained in this area as his chakra development moves up at this age, right? This is right about 6, 7, 8 is when we start moving up into this area. So he's developed a nice, strong solar plexus. I made sure of that. Good job, Mom. I'll suffer for it, but in the long run, it'll help him. So, knowing that he's in that stage, developing these things, that he's working with the heart right now, I do my best to be extra gentle with him. I do my best to have the conversations with him about those things from this perspective, not from this perspective. He knows how to accomplish a task. So if I were to spend all of my time trying to teach him how to do the task again, it wouldn't be satisfying the need that he needs. Leb, thank you, friend. I don't know, but I'm quite certain I'm like every other parent who doubts almost everything they do and feels like they're fucking up royally and that their children are going to need therapy for the rest of their lives. And God forbid my child decides to never talk to me again. I don't have a good relationship with my parents, so probably one of my biggest fears is that somewhere, some way, we're gonna create it. We're gonna have a rift. He's gonna decide at some point in his life, like almost all of us do, to go and figure out who he is. And sometimes we leave our parents behind for a time. But again, from the words of Khalil Gibran from his poem On Children, the parent is the bow and the child is the arrow, because it is the job of the parent to bend as far as possible, pull back as far as much, so that we can propel our children forward, because time does not move in the direction of the parents, it moves in the direction of the arrow. It moves in the direction of the children. And therefore, as adults, as parents, we should never hope for our children to be in our image. If anything, may we strive to be in theirs. It takes a lot of humility to parent like that. I'm still figuring how to do that. But in it has been the most profound healing. So many of us, right, look back and say, I suffer from childhood trauma. Here are the current day manifestations of my childhood trauma, and they're causing me imbalance and pain and suffering and all these other things. Obviously, we don't want to create it for our children, right? And in fact, children offer us usually the opportunity for such deep healing, because they are agents of healing. They are agents of growth. They are agents of change. They're little balls of creation, and they want to do, there's everything is about expansion. Everything is about making more space for life to exist. They are literally pushing back on the universe to make space for themselves to manifest in this finite reality. When they do that, when they come into your world, in your house that you've created, in your space, what are they going to do? They're going to make space for themselves too. And that might mean an elbow in some of your childhood trauma, or a finger in the nose or in your ear that's obnoxious and triggers the fuck out of you. They are going to find the deepest, messiest, ugliest, most difficult stuff. They're going to find the things that need healing that you do not want to look at. The very thing that you have in the very far back of your closet that you've hid really well for this long, and then you decide to have children. If you have skeletons in your closet, your children will take them out and dance with them. And then make them shit on your floor and blame it on the dog. Not from a nefarious, not from a bad place, not from being mean, not from being little manipulators or anything. Literally, their brain doesn't even have the capacity to do that. Just a reminder. Their brain does not have the capacity to manipulate you until they're like, to even attempt to manipulate you effectively, until about this 8 and above is when they start learning how to truly attempt manipulation and start to succeed. They will find the nastiest, smelliest, ugliest secret that you have, and they will throw it all over the room. They will poke it every single day, again and again and again, until you acknowledge that it is there and shift it, heal it. They're going to help you unpack, because they are a pure life force incarnate. They're just making space, and they're helping you make space. Makai, giving you life today. I love you, my friend. Humility I find to be such a beautiful experience. Agreed. I love, again, the first few times we slip into humility, right, it can kind of feel scary or weak or vulnerable. But when you cultivate it again and again and again, it only gets better. That, right, humility ages quite well. That is a fine wine. Still working on it daily. That's all we can do. Okay. Jeremy, you said that they were told you were crazy and that you need to be medicated. Again, this is the way that the system deteriorates, erodes us, erodes our confidence, erodes our autonomy, erodes our relationships, creates dysfunction, sows dysfunction into our personal lives, into our families, and into our communities. Um, we live in a world that is controlled by people who harvest your energy, your resources, and your means. Your attention is one of the most valuable things that you can give to anybody. Actually, that's not true. Because your attention by itself is not valuable unless you can be manipulated as well. That's why we are practicing mindfulness. That's why we're in this space, right? So that we can develop the tools to not be manipulated by these comings and goings of shadows out in the world. These falsified concepts, these exaggerated stories. And Thor, you said you've always felt that a parent loses all sovereignty to their offspring's needs. Number one, like not all autonomy, mind you, but all the hopes and dreams put aside for the kids. That may be the case with some people, may feel that way. But I can tell you that for me, I always wanted to have children because I wanted to do the experiment. I wanted to go through the thing of seeing this creature come out of nowhere and then being responsible for ushering it into this world. But for me, it also came from a very spiritual perspective because I had ideas about reincarnation and God and these kinds of things very early on. So for me, it was more about like, okay, I'll be honest, it was more about how does that happen? That we take an infinite divine life force and like somehow distill it into a finite body. I want to see that process on the intimate level. I want to see it every day. I want to be privy to every bit of that process. But I also spent 12 plus years studying that process from the scientific and religious and philosophical perspective, too. So having a kid, and I apologize to him a million times. I'm like, I love you, obviously, and I had a child because I truly, genuinely wanted to bring a person into this world and I wanted to see this process. But also, that means I'm going to be studying you every day. But that also means that I actually have been talking to him about the things that I'm seeing. So it gives him this different perspective that's probably going to blow his mind open a little bit too fast. But I'm okay from getting my mind blown open a little too fast. But I really don't think, Thor, that we really lose all autonomy. In fact, it's again another manipulation of our culture that says, well, once you have children, you need to do things like this. And we've lived in 7 states. He's lived in 7 states so far. He has done both homeschool and public school. He tests on certain things at a 6th grade level. He tests on other things at a 2nd grade level. And he's still working on other things. He's too smart for his britches because I gave him the information. And despite it being frustrating, I'm really enjoying watching him apply the information. I'm really enjoying the process of that. And I think if you're going to have children, if you have them, that it's really important to make space for them to exist in your life. Because I do a disservice to my child if I do everything for him. So he has to have some autonomy. And I have to encourage that autonomy. But I also have to show it by modeling it and being autonomous myself. And not being privy to every single need. And that's, again, scaffolding at the right ages and whatnot. I am working on a book one of these days called The Padded Wall Parenting Theory, that talks all about this stuff and actually gives like exercises and tools to use in real time with your kids at different stages that are age appropriate to help support their autonomy, not dependency, to help support their own critical thinking and their own mastery of their own emotions, responsibility for their own emotions and choices and actions, rather than, again, taking care of everything for them and then keeping them in this infantile relationship. Oftentimes we accidentally keep our children in an infantile relationship because we don't want them to grow up. But what are we doing is we're doing them a disservice. We're denying the truth of the creatures that they are, which are expansive creatures in the middle of the growth process. Honey, step back. Padded wall parenting is about the fact that we need to, as parents, create an appropriate container for our children. It needs to be big enough for them to explore, big enough for them to play, big enough for them to grow and experiment, but not so big that it blows open their senses with too much information, too much stimulation from the world. Because the world is really big and scary when your brain cannot even conceive of something that big and scary. So, yeah. But be willing and be ready to go on that journey with them. Makai, you said you always thought you wanted children, but it wasn't in your cards. You love children, though. Then, I hope that you spend that energy with children, because I'm missing a ton of comments here, guys. Sorry. That's right, Katie. Responsibility. Because there's a lot of children in this world who need that kind of adult. I was a kind of child who all I wanted was a decent adult. It didn't even have to be my parent. Just an adult who would listen to me, who would talk to me, who would respect me as a human, not as just constantly trying to keep me as this stupid little child. Was my experience so much growing up. Is just this like, no, I'm big, you're small. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm smart, you're dumb, and there's nothing you can do about it. So shut up and sit down and follow the fucking rules. And that's not conducive to anybody's personal expression, authenticity. Are there rules we need to follow? Are there boundaries we need to learn? Yes, that's why padded wall parenting is about setting those boundaries, but ensuring that they are padded walls. Because when I was a kid, when you found a boundary, that shit hurt. Usually there was a clap back for finding a boundary, for testing a boundary, right? I'm like, literally, I'm just trying to find the fucking walls of this prison that you're keeping me in because I'd like to see over top. I want to explore. I want to grow. That's what all of our children's energy is doing. That's what all of us are doing in childhood, is expanding and growing. For so many adult bodies lacking the ability to respond, it's hard to set good examples. That's what I was talking about earlier, though, about responsibility for the mistakes that we make. And this is a big thing in our house here. I tell my son regularly, I'm not perfect. I'm not all the way healed, and I'm gonna fuck up, and I'm gonna hurt your feelings, and I'm gonna go do things wrong, and I'm not gonna do things right every single time, and I'm not gonna be able to make an example for you if I don't even know how to do the thing in the first place. So at 8, him and I have already had discussions about things that we are working on together. There are things that my son and I are working on together, and there are ways in which he sets the better example for me. And I need to have the humility to see when he's the one who's in the lead. And have the humility to sit back and go, okay, I can follow your lead because your lead actually is the more authentic or healthier way to move through this. We do ourselves a great service when we look at our children and recognize that they have a profound amount to teach us. Jeremy, you said you believe you had more love to give, but the label mental illness kept them blind to it. And this is the thing: when we label, and this remember, it happened just a couple generations back, where we used to put women in institutionalized women for having emotions. Right? We called it hysteria. It was a way. It was a means of control. It was a means of control and social manipulation. I have been diagnosed several times over the years with several different things. My parents tried to commit me as a teenager because I was mad. Like the system is conducive to dulling authenticity, to dampening your authenticity. Thank you, Ginger. We're always trying to break cycles, right? Hopefully. Or we won't be able to exemplify the ability to respond to our own mistakes and corrections. And I think that's the important thing, and that's why I teach what I teach, right? Is to give everybody the tools to start responding to our own imbalances, to finding a little bit of space, a little bit of compassion for the self, so that you can go, oops, I fucked up. If you never apologize to your children and you have children, I encourage you to experiment with apologizing to them. It's going to make a huge, like, your kids are going to be like, what the fuck, who are you? I grew up in a household when we never had apology from the adults, and we never saw resolution. I didn't know how to resolve conflict. I just know the conflict, and then there were closed doors, and then it was better. So yeah, there are definitely tools that we don't receive from our parents, but then it's our responsibility to get them, right? And as adults, we have to recognize, have the humility and the courage to recognize where we are short-sighted, where we are not the experts, and where our children can teach us. And that's just it, Thor. I think it's not about us having to be perfect, or not about us giving away our full autonomy, or not about us fixing ourselves. Sure, if you haven't had kids yet and you want to have kids, unpack your bags. Unpack as much as you can. You'll thank me for it later, I promise. You'll thank yourself for it later, I promise. But if you're where you're at right here, right now, just own it, at the very least. And then let go of those bags. Stop holding on. This is what we do, is we hold on so hard, so tight to our triggers and our fears and whatnot that we refuse to let go of the bullshit that's pulling us off balance. Practice your mindfulness. Cultivate your intention. Cultivate your attention. Meet yourself with curiosity and willingness on a regular basis. So when something difficult comes up, you have the habit, you have the tool to meet it too with curiosity and willingness. But it's a release. It's a letting go. It's a letting go. And it's a hard thing to let go when you're in a state of fear, or when you're in a state of, yeah. User 392635915150. I like saying you guys' thing when it's a whole bunch of numbers. You say that our mistakes are derived from claiming they are mistakes, not lessons. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's be a little bit more flexible with it, right? My self-fulfilling prophecy isn't just from calling lessons mistakes. But it is a way of thinking that we can definitely shift, so that we view them as opportunities rather than as failings, right? And that's when we start to develop the self-fulfilling prophecy. We exaggerate and exacerbate our failings, and therefore spend more energy and time on them, and therefore water them in our lives. You're right. If we can't respond to mistakes, they won't be lessons to exemplify. Hi, Sam. Thanks for bringing Jesus into this space. Christ consciousness already exists in here. Thank you for reminding everybody. I like that, right? We're sitting in the park. We're sitting in our collective little space, sharing, chatting. Somebody comes by and goes, "Oh my God, I see Jesus in your space." We go, "Yeah, thanks. Yeah, he hangs out here." Yeah. That's what I'm going to take them from now on. Every time we get the folks coming in and hollering about religious doctrine, right? Pushing religious perspectives on other people. It's just a reminder. Just a reminder, yes, 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 God is here, yes. Jesus is here, yes. Ooh. User with lots of numbers. We convinced ourselves long ago of an ideal life, and that our purpose itself isn't to make mistakes. See, and I think that bleeds into the religious doctrine that tells us that sin is the bad part, and sin is mistakes, and therefore if I am making mistakes, then I am a bad, broken, or somehow not godly enough person. I think that's where we convinced ourselves sometime long ago of this: if I'm not perfect, then I'm broken. And the whole story, the whole biblical Christian story, is that we are naturally sinful and broken creatures, and we must constantly forgive for that. And again, for me, that develops an infantile relationship that says that I am perpetually and always bad. And that's not the truth that I have come to understand, that I have come to see in the world. Thor, good point. Free forgiveness is a mistake. Well, I don't. Free forgiveness. Remedying our mistakes to earn redemption is an example to set. And that's why we use apologies, sorry in my house in that way. And it's true that when we give free forgiveness without, not even that, because I want to take it back a bit, because it's like forgiveness is something that I give for me, right? I forgive somebody so that I don't carry any sort of harbor, any sort of negative emotions and carry that shit around. But if I forgive and forget and allow the same cycle to repeat with other people in my life, then I'm not supporting them in their own wellness, and I'm not supporting my own either. At that point, we're condoning people's behavior, right? Jeremy, we want to reflect on our highest self, but we can reflect in our inner child and heal our inner child. What was I saying earlier about the inner child part of me, right? That sits with me, especially when I am facing some of the biggest, scariest things. The higher, wiser self sometimes is much quieter. And I feel quite much more at peace when my inner child is beside me, because I know she will see through the mask. The child always sees through the mask. The child always sees the truth underneath. The child sees the playfulness and curiosity for what it is, fun, but the child has the mind to see beyond the illusion. And so my inner child actually really does a lot to help me disarm parts of me that are scary and feel violent and angry and these other things. My inner child helps me a lot. Katie, does C-section birth affect development? Physical development, cognitive development. I want to be mindful, because I'm not going to tell you that C-section is bad and it's going to cause you problems for the rest of your life. I'm not going to say that, because that's a big sweeping judgment that is just going to be fear-based, and it's just going to, yeah, we don't do that. There are benefits to natural birth, I can't say it on TikTok, sorry, to natural birth that are not received during cesarean. For example, during labor, the face and mouth and ears and eyes and all that stuff get coated with the bacteria from the mom, right? Important stuff that can improve our vision, improve our digestion, improve our teeth, improve the functioning of our hearing, improve our skin. One of the things that happens with cesarean is you just don't get that flush of bacteria as you go through the birth canal. But that can also be inoculated. Like that can also kind of be delivered to a cesarean child. It's not always delivered to one. There's also something to be said about the squeeze of labor itself for the muscles, for the heartbeat, and for the bones, as ligaments and things. There are a lot of ways in which a child who's delivered by cesarean is going to miss on some of those things. Not all of those things, right? After natural delivery, leaving that vernix on, leaving the umbilical cord on for a while can be really helpful, again, for fortifying the blood, for protecting the skin, for digestion. A lot of digestion comes in those early stages, comes from influence from the mother, both with nursing as well as with delivery. Yeah. So, but I would add that, our early experiences are going to influence the way that our systems develop. Period. Being born through cesarean may actually offer you an advantage in some ways in your experience. Not to everybody across the board. But it's just something that can be addressed later on. And I've come to understand the self, through this energetic perspective, that if we treat the energy body, we can reach all layers of self, all different aspects of self. And that can manifest as alignment in the body, in the mind, in the thyroid and endocrine system, in the nervous system, in the breath, in you know, in all of these different ways. So I guess that's my answer, Katie. Does it affect? Yes. Is it detrimental? No. Just like if I get a piercing, it's going to redirect my energy body, my energy, but my energy is going to either adjust around it, or I might have to do some adjustment to repair. But that is the opportunity we have in life, right? Is to grow and to evolve and to go through the process of repair, of coming home to ourselves. Guys, I'm so sorry today. I keep getting on these little not side tracks, but I keep missing a bunch of comments. So if I miss something that's important, feel free to ask again. Thor, you literally cannot relate to people who say that you're holding the resentment. It's there, and it's not in my power to hold or release. Thor, I can tell you just in my experience and my exploration of these things with energy is that that is an energetic. You do have the power. You can cultivate the power to release it. Resentment is an emotion, and it's an imbalanced frequency that we resonate at. Especially, it becomes a suffering. It becomes a state of suffering. Resentment becomes something that is perpetually with us, perpetually eroding away at our balance, at our energy. And without the tools to release it, it becomes part of who you are, and it feels like it's as real as your arm because it hasn't been released. But the energy can be released. It's just about finding the tools and being willing to, and also shifting your perspective and recognizing that it is something temporal, it is something that can be released, and it is something that, you know, again, recognizing it, and whether you call it a mistake or a lesson, and go, oh, I totally thought that thing was part of me. I thought it was as real as my left ear. Well, turns out I can actually release it. Cool. Shift the perspective and start doing the work if you want to. Or choose to maintain it, but recognize that it is a choice at some point. I choose resentment. You can choose resentment or not. Recognizing that you have a superpower. That superpower is choice. In every moment, you have the choice. Are some choices hard to make? Yes. Do we need tools to make other choices? Yes, absolutely. We can't make higher, wiser choices unless we've done the work of understanding and, gaining the knowledge for it. We can't make those choices. So, choices are available to you based on the amount of information and willingness, which is why I share freely, right? Knowledge is power. And again, we live in a system that tells you you are powerless. The system says, encourages you, blame anybody but yourself. Make it everybody else's problem. Make it everybody else's fault. Make it everybody else's responsibility to change it. Nothing I can do. I can't change the system. No, you can't change the system, but you can change your system. And when you change your system, you no longer need that system quite in the same way. That's freedom. That's strength. That's autonomy. Love, great question. Asking Thor, how are holding on and not letting go different? You assume that letting go is a thing that can be done, is why they're not the same. No, Thor, no one's telling you it's your fault that you don't. It's the information on how to jump to the moon is available. You're basically telling me you know how to jump to the moon and it's my fault that I don't. No. In fact, I'm sitting here saying that it is a travesty that most of us don't get this information. I had to go search for this information and practice a million different fucking ways to jump to the moon. But I had a willingness and a curiosity that said, I think I can jump to the moon. And what you're saying is, I can't fucking jump to the moon. You're full of shit. Or you can jump to the moon, but I cannot, period. And that's going to limit your ability to jump to the moon in and of itself. And that's about perspective. Is the information out there on how to jump to the moon? Yes. If you spend the time learning it and cultivating it and practicing it, could you jump to the moon? Probably. But you're not going to learn to ride a bike unless you go get on a bike. If you sit here and say, well, I don't have a bike, so I'm never going to learn, well, then you're never going to learn. And I don't mean to say that as dismissive or belittling or even as argumentative. I say it as encouraging. The option is there if you choose it. Blue pill or red pill. Continue. There's the quote. Richard Bach, right? Argue for your limitations and indeed they are yours. And that statement really pisses me off and some people off too. I've seen it really fucking trigger people, and it really fucking triggers me too sometimes. Argue for your limitations and indeed they are yours. No, they're not! Yes, they are. You can argue for them or not, but it's your choice. There is so much more choice available to us, and that is a matter of autonomy, of freedom that we must accept that we have available to us, or we will not be able to access it. Thor, you say you have no perspective to allow for redefinition. Perspective is your perspective. I think we're playing semantics now. No, there's a bunch of comments, Thor, and I'm giving you my time and attention, and it seems like there's a lot of other people in here giving you their time and attention. And again, we're not saying that you're wrong or that you've done anything wrong. You're saying it's not for a lack of effort. I understand. Recognize that this is not readily available information that is just like out there that you can go to your doctor and ask for support from. This is information I had to work to find. Are you okay, doggo? Come on. Okay. All right. Give me a second. And this is what my own system has done, right? When I'm struggling to take responsibility for something that I can change, something that I feel resentment about, something that I feel angry, there's usually a lot of emotional attachment to it. Trust me, when you study media manipulation and read this shit and go down these rabbit holes I went down as a kid, you look at the world pretty fucking angrily. There's toxic poison on the grocery store shelves. My doctor does not even care about my health. Like, we have powers that be manipulating people left and right to divide families and friends and nations and cultures. Like, it's infuriating. And it's infuriating every single time I walk into another one of those walls that exists in this matrix we live in. But I refuse to be a victim of it. After being a victim of it for too fucking long. It takes a kind of brazenness, right? To not just sit back and go, fuck it, there's nothing I can do. The system relies on you saying, fuck it, there's nothing I can do. Or for blaming something so far outside of you that there's nothing you can do to change it. It's the system's fault. Who in the system? Where in the system? What can we do to change it? If we're going to point a finger at something, at least point a finger at something that we can have some kind of control over. But instead, the system gaslights you into this whole big arching, look, you have no power because the powers that be are so much bigger than you. They're actually not, because we can break them down into tiny little pieces. But the hardest thing to do sometimes is to just shift the perspective enough to see a little bit of light. To not feel like you're stuck in the back of the cave, in a tunnel, in complete darkness. And the more we pull ourselves out of that darkness, the easier it gets. I talk about this kind of stuff sometimes, like trying to move a mountain, right? Or being on one of those TV shows where they have the like Velcro suit, right? and you're trying to pull yourself off a Velcro wall. You guys know this game somewhere was somewhere along the along the timeline. The people would run and jump, or they'd be thrown into a Velcro wall, and you have to try to pull your whole body off. It's not easy to do. When you're first making these shifts, like the thing, I don't know if you're in here anymore, and I hope you are, but that's where I was, and that's where I see a lot of people still in various areas. And there's some places in my life I'm still there too, arguing for my limitations. But the frustration I felt with needing to take a level of responsibility for it was really fucking high. No, someone else should be accountable for this. Somebody else should, yeah, oh yes, someone should be accountable for this. I can be that person in tiny little ways each day. I can be accountable for my choices that I make, for the things I engage in, for the words that I say out loud and to myself. Because if I am telling myself, nope, can't do that, then there's no chance I can do it. Doesn't matter what anybody else says about it either. But if I start from, I can try. Knowing the truth is also accountability. Definitely adds to our responsibility. We can't find that truth unless we're willing to recognize the places that we're wrong. This is the paradox of it. To find truth, I have to see where I'm being dishonest. Again, I don't push anybody on this work, on this path, because the hardest fucking part about it is how much personal responsibility you have to take. And for me, the reason I went down this path was because I came from a lot of things that I didn't do to myself. And as a child, right, things I couldn't protect myself from. And I was very angry with the world, with the culture, with the society that it would allow, with the religion, with the God that it would allow these things to happen. What did I ever do to deserve SA in infancy? Physical violence through my entire childhood. Gaslighting, emotional manipulation. I had every right to be angry. And when you live in a system that doesn't support our individual well-being, it tells you to fall in line and do what you're told, and you'll be okay. Which was exactly the same kind of abuse that I got. So when I was turned out into society, I was like, fuck this entire place. Every one of them. So I left the country and went searching for home, went searching for family, went searching for someplace better. And of course, it was on that journey that I heard someone tell me a story about a young man who was traveling around looking for a new place to be. And he came into this new town, and he saw an old man sitting in his rocking chair outside of the hardware store. And so he goes by and he says, hey old man, what's this town like? I'm just a traveler passing through looking for a new place to be. And the old man goes, well, what was it like where you came from? And he said, oh, the weather was shitty, the people were shitty, that's why I'm leaving. The whole fucking place was terrible. And the old man says, yeah, it's about the same here. A couple days later, it's a popular travel town. A couple days later, probably in California. A couple days later, another young man comes through town and he says, hey, sees the old man sitting there in front of the hardware store. He says, excuse me, old man. He's like, how you doing? How's this town? I'm just passing through. I'm just looking for a new place to be, maybe, I don't know, seeing what's around. What's this place like? And the old man said, well, what was it like where you're from? And he goes, well, people were pretty nice, The weather was okay. It was a nice little town. I had some good friends, but I'm just looking for something new. And the old man goes, yeah, it's a lot like that here. Perspective. I needed to leave the United States and go through quite the adventures to realize that it wasn't, yes, the system is broken. Yes, my parents were broken. Yes, I live in a society, you know, I live in a country where it's totally okay to poison just everyday people. Sell products with poisons. Yep, yep. All these things are real and true. But I don't have to be a victim of any of them. I did. I was talking about the grass is greener, yeah. Because I felt victimized by a system that I felt like I couldn't change. I think it was my mother actually at that time that said, if everyone else in the world is wrong, it's time to take a look at yourself. And so I looked at myself as the victim, hurt by everybody, hurt by all these experiences, laden with pain and suffering and all these things. Jeremy, oh, but I promise we are changing the system. We are changing the system, yes, by choosing to, not by blaming the system. Right? There's a difference. I can be a victim if I point my finger out and say, that thing is like that, so that's why I'm like this. Justifies my victimhood and leaves me powerless. Feral Farm, other than buying local, how do you change it though? That's a huge answer because there's actually a ton of ways. Sorry, I was just checking there. King Simpleton, you lost a way to make money today, but you found a new way in less than an hour. Congratulations! I am finding ways to not use money. Feral Farm, you're in a super red area, so voting doesn't really matter, although you do. And voting is one of those things that I encourage everyone to participate in. But we also have to recognize the truth that it is a broken system as well. It is a system that is not intended to amplify the voices of the people. It's intended to amplify the voices of the few. That's what the Electoral College does. It takes all of the people's voices and distills them into a fewer voices. And those fewer voices don't have to listen to their constituents, unfortunately. So it is a broken system, and it's a system that relies on a two-party system, and the two parties are two sides of the same coin, right? So we can get into the system, and understanding how the system functions is an important piece of changing it. Because if we don't know how it functions and we keep trying to change it through voting alone, then we're going to keep not changing it. And I want to go further than. Yeah, don't buy from. That's what I was gonna say. I want to go further than not buying than just buying local, because buying local is really important, and that means supporting your local businesses or supporting at least small businesses. No longer buying from companies who are those big mega corporations who are funding war and other horrible things and who are poisoning our children and things like that. Like, we do not want to be supporting that. So it means becoming mindful. In a world that relies heavily on your ignorance, become familiar. Become familiar with the system. Become familiar with the companies that you're buying from. And when you become familiar, then you can make wiser choices. Okay, well, now I know that the website company I was using for hosting for a couple of years, Wix, for several years, actually is a really huge contributor to an economy that is currently engaging in war crimes. I'm not going to be spending my money there anymore. I have canceled my membership with them, and I'm doing something different. Does it mean having to go without certain things or going out without certain, I have to change the brand that I buy? Yeah. Or learn to make it at home? Yeah. I think we do a lot. Okay. Your attention, and your resources, your money, your time. These are your resources. Your attention, your time, and your money, right? This is what the system siphons off of you. It keeps you distracted with all these little things. Collective consciousness needs to be its own political party. Jeremy, it will be. We're evolving, We're campaigning right now. Yes, Leb, thank you. Okay. The best way to change a system is not from within, but to make a new system that makes the old one obsolete. And this is what I mean by with your resources. So this system runs on first they need your attention so that they can manipulate you into buying things or not buying things, supporting candidates or not supporting candidates, right? So start cultivating your attention. This is a resource that is a resource that is heavily harvested from all of us. So cultivate your attention so that it's in your own little greenhouse here, right? And you decide how to distribute it. That may mean not spending as much time fucking around on your phone playing video games. I know it's hard, but let's work on finding another thing because there are other things. Try to think about what you did before you had that fucking phone in your hands. And I know I can't say that to you, Gen Z, and to some millennials, but there is a really beautiful world out there, and we can shift it in these tiny little ways. Yeah, putting your phone down and not staring at it, leaving it behind when you go somewhere, um, putting your money where your values are and only where your values are, and to not contribute to the systems in other ways. I have to be careful with what I say on here because I don't know how much the AI is listening or how much trouble I could get for doing certain things and particularly opting out of certain parts of this um, country, financially opting out, um, behaviorally opting out. I'm not paying for the institutions. I'm not going and engaging with them. I'm not. We change it by removing our resources from it. We starve it by removing our resources from it. And any way that you can remove your resources from it, that is going to be a step in the right direction. The step in the direction of building something new. Steven, hey Steven, sorry I missed your comment here. Is my son still in MMA? He needs space to. Yeah, no, I can't afford MMA anymore, unfortunately. So he's not up there, but he's also, again, we're working on some basic stuff. Um, he does need his space, and he has space. He has space to be, but unfortunately, in the situation that we're in, without community or enough support for him to have other people to go to, it's where we're at. I need my own space too. Beanie Bee, hey babe. Instead of going to the movies, you go for a walk in nature. You learn more from nature, I have found. And this is the thing is we have to I don't want to use that terminology, but we have to shift the energy around it, right? When I'm feeling bored, I might go to my phone and scroll on social media or check something or look at this, or when I have a thought pop up in my head, I pick up my phone to Google it. Like, just start breaking those habits by choosing something else for a moment, right? Plus, it's free and it makes you think. Exactly. That's a really nice one. Nature. It does. It gives you all sorts of things to look at. One of my favorite mindfulness practices, guys, is to bring your attention, to bring yourself down into the here and now completely, is just to implore all five senses. Free-ish, right? Yeah, horses have their own level of economy. Free-ish. But to use all your senses, employ all of your senses. Employ your senses in the experience, in being present with what's going on around you. And nature is a good place to do that. But here's the thing, you can do that anytime, anywhere. I really like to do it when I find myself trying to, if I find myself antsy, like I'm trying to get a snack plus try to watch TV shows and play games and do the other things and right? What I will do is just stop and employ all of my senses, as much of my senses as possible, right in the moment, right where I am. That usually means stopping, not moving, and looking around for different colors in the room. I almost always start with colors, with my vision, and then I look and then I listen for different sounds in the room. And then I feel into my body, feel for my breath, feel for my heartbeat, feel for the temperature of my body. Notice the inhale and exhale of the breath on my nose. Maybe even send my attention into my mouth and feel how my mouth is feeling or tasting, right? You can experience an immediate shift when you do that and when you really give it your attention, right? That kind of practice doesn't work if I just stop and look around at everything and I'm like, feel, 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 feel. Okay, I'm done. Really, was my attention there? No. Give it your time and attention. Bring your intention into it and really do it with all of your attention. Oh, nice, Feral Farm. Beanie Bay, yesterday I was in a sad, dark place in my head. I went outside and 2 feral kittens were playing. You put my focus on watching them and at the same time felt your emotions. Beautiful. This is what I mean when I say we have the power, superpower of choice. You made that choice to stop and listen or sit there and just pay attention. And that's what you did. That was the simplest thing. You just gave it your attention without judgment, without needing to change anything, right? You just gave it your attention, sat with it for a little bit, and what happened? Hey, Eric, sending you my love. Driving to Nevada. I was going to ask, are you on the road? I am going to have to close up here shortly, though, because we need to go stop by the food bank. We're going to go head by the food bank, and then it sounds like we might need kitten collars or something. He's very concerned about them getting picked up by the neighbors. So, all right, my friends, remember, choice is your superpower. And if choice is your superpower, who are you choosing to be today? How are you choosing to be today? How are you choosing to be with yourself, with the people around you? How are you choosing to see them, perceive them today? And can you shift your perspective to offer more space for growth, for healing, for love? Where is your attention going? Because that is what you are watering. Are you watering fear and resentment? Or are you watering possibility and opportunity? Are you watering love or sowing seeds of hate? And remember, the Grinch is actually just a little tiny creature in a little tiny town on a little tiny speck of dust. So next time you get some crazy Grinch showing up in your life or inside of your head or whatever it is, right? Remember, just give it some breath and that thing will blow away. How about that perspective? Pleasure sharing space with you too, Jeremy. Love you all. Remember your mudra for the week, the Ashvaratna Mudra. Bring your palms together. Keep your pinkies, ring fingers, and thumbs connected, and interlace your index and your middle finger. Jeremy, the collective ant farm is just temporarily chaotic. Yeah. That chaos is the chaos of the ant farm cage falling off the shelf so that it can break and we can finally get the fuck out. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. Shift your perspective today. Give yourself those 5 minutes of self-care. And if you want to come join our awesome little community, go to the link in my bio. If you want to work directly with me with private sessions, there's a link in my bio. If you have any questions, you want any of the links, or you want to chat about things, whether you agree with me or not, feel free to send me a message. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for helping me cultivate this space. What's today? It's Wednesday. So there's nothing happening this evening. I do, like I said, I am really intent on doing a live where we talk about Project 2025 and Agenda 47. I would really like to have a honest discussion with everyone about the information, right? And we can do that in that space. We can practice meeting each other with curiosity and willingness. You guys are an awesome community, and I look forward to doing that with you guys, hopefully, so that we can also help other people who come in for that discussion who may not be able to meet each other with curiosity and willingness. So I look forward to doing that. I'm going to hopefully do that soon. Like I said, it's a very emotional thing for me, triggering thing for me. So I have to be in the right headspace so that I can stay even keeled, right? Or I can stay level headed while we go through it. It's a mozzie cocktail of both worlds. Yes, it is. Yes, let's explore it together so we can. Knowledge is power, right? In a world that relies on your ignorance, become familiar. I love you. All right, good night, Instagram. I love you so much. And good night, YouTube. I love you so much.